Yeah, I'm good, man. Whenever.
We are live now. We're doing it. You got the grinder going. Hi, internet.
Yeah.
We have returned with our guest. My name is Holden Stephan Roy, everyone. Joining me tonight on this very special episode of Bridge the Gap, the show where we take interesting people such as Mr. Trev Elder Jones and walk through their lives and learn a whole bunch of them. Well, that's who's joining me, Trev Elder Jones. That was an awkward intro, but we just roll with it. We roll with it. There's been a little schedule switch up on our side. So for those that are used to that, like end of the week battle rapper stuff going down on Saturdays, that's now on Wednesdays. And when I was saying I was booking Mondays and Wednesdays, now I say shit like I'm booking Mondays and Saturdays. Trev is our magical first Saturday without end of the week, just doing our thing over here. So shout
Nice.
out the beginning of some new in this universe. So yeah, we're super excited to have you here, and I think that you're an interesting character because you break out the box of a lot of the more traditional guests we've had. And I never went into this like I just want to talk to musicians. I wanted to talk to interesting people. That's why I start the show off saying the words interesting people. The part where you do music is just one of the things that like would make a person interesting. The part where you slang dope legally makes you kind of interesting. The part where you interviewed me, well, I mean, how did you get to the point where you're linked up with a Willie Scandals and a Cortese and you fucking interviewing rappers and shit? Well, that's also interesting, right? Like, there's a whole story behind this guy, the whole universe into it, but also a lot of us speculate on things like what a dispensary is and shit, but you actually know what these things are. So, as we had the opportunity to go through your journey, as you'll see, a lot of detail goes into going through your journey. We can learn a lot, especially in a point where it's like for real, like we went legal and I read regulations and laws about me as a consumer, but you think I was reading all that other shit? No, it was really boring. So I focused on the me as an end consumer, and then all this time has passed, and now there's words like mom appearing on YouTube ads, and you're like, what is a mom? You figure out it's a mail order marijuana, but you're not sitting
Yeah.
there going, you're like, I don't even want to Google mom weed. It just sounds corny. Like, what is this shit? So I'm like sitting there on this other side of it, and then you just appear, and you're like, bro, I got like all the world's worth of things in my life. Because keep in mind, folks, I lives up in Montreal, Quebec, where the government wants to sign the dope, and I believe Trev is in Ontario, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
where it's different world. So we just should put that caveat on it. On that note, I do want to get through your life, but I feel like even if you're not like a musical guest, my first token question would still be super interesting because you ended up talking to musicy people. So it's a bit of a story. Just run with it. We'll see what happens. It's an experiment today. Kind of
Go.
like how y'all go crazy over on the King's Court, which y'all should check out Thursdays live at 9 p.m. over in the Elders Green Room. That's right. They're fucking great peoples over there. Shout out Willie
Yeah,
Scandals and
respect.
Cortese as well. Cortese? I'm fucking saying that terrible. He'll be on the show soon in the future. I digress. So my girlfriend's washing the dishes this one time, and she's playing that Black Eyed Peas song on her phone. That I got a feeling. Ooh. She's like dancing around and she's like bopping and she's doing her thing. I started thinking a lot about this song, right? And how this song in particular is like it's exercise music now. It's chores music. It's this whole vibe of like people who want to move and stuff, which makes sense, but it's also so very different than what it was like 10 years ago, back when I was sitting there in the clubs and we was all dancing around drunk as fuck to that song in circles and shit. It was the party jam, and now it's the chores jam. And it's just so nifty to me how like music can like evolve over time like that, right? So with
Yeah.
that, I started thinking about how nifty it is that all the current club music, the Cardi B's and all of that is basically going to be the chores music of these kids of the future. That's just what it is. These people are going to grow up watching up, then it's up, then it's up, then all that shit. It's the future music. Then I started going, yo, but like musical journeys are super interesting, right? Because they play like a soundtrack to our lives and they have so much context into all the different decisions and choices we make, and there's a huge correlation between weed culture and music culture, let's be real. So it's like a fair thing to like explore a little bit. And I started thinking about how when we talk about music so conventionally, we end up at this point where we focus on adolescence and when we get into it and what we cared about in our identity, and all that's really important, but it's not really the start of anybody's journey. So the start of the journey really is like way back, as early as you can remember. So I like to start with music because it really taps into those youth memories, right? So you go back to
Yeah.
being young. Like, what does it feel like when you're like 5 or earlier? And like for me, I can picture my dad with these gray boxes all linked up with speakers and the amplifiers and the radios and bumping Led Zeppelin tapes. And at the nighttime, there was that 90s dance music, that shit that would be played over there. And at Christmas time, we had this techno remix of Christmas bangers. My mom, she had these shitty bootleg disco knockoff tapes and shit. Anyway, all this stuff is like stuff that got played a lot when I'm young. It totally affects my life today in a lot of different ways and whatnot. And it explains a bit of the realities of growing up and everything. So I was hoping if you could walk us a little bit through a bit of the musical soundscape of you being super young, what it was like to be like a very little, let's say a Trev, not so elder Jones.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I come from such a diversified music background. I remember as far back as I can remember, the first things I was listening to, this may shock a bunch of you, but my parents had an 8-track player. And so there were two 8-tracks that I would jam to around the house when I was like 5 and 6 years old, as early as I can remember. And the one was the YMCA, was the Village People. But I mean, it was like the whole album, like the In the Navy, the whole, and I'd be jamming it in the living room. And I mean, like full blown pipe singing, 5 years old, going at it. And then the other 8-track, I was just talking about this yesterday, um, was an artist called Boney M, and he did
Okay.
some tracks called Night Flight to Venus and Rah Rah Rasputin. I had no idea what the message in the music was back then, but something about it was like it got a hold of me, and I realized like music was going to be a big part of my life, you know. And I turned 9. When I was 9 years old, my parents decided to put me in like the equivalent. I know, keep the jokes down though, but they enrolled me at band camp. But it was like
Okay.
back then it was called drum corps. So like
Hold on. We're gonna get to
adolescent,
that, but before we do, let's
yeah.
go back to being like 5. Before you get to drum corps, are you even involved in some singing? Are you a singer? Like, are you 5, bopping around, singing, dancing, doing all that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah. I was born to entertain. I mean, the time I was born, it certainly wasn't, there wasn't TV shows and such like today, but we did stuff like school talent shows and stuff like that. And I was definitely, wanting to sing, like every kid's dream. I knew every word to every song that I sang, and I was singing in front of my family all the time. I remember we were 5 years old and I was singing Michael Jackson and trying to break dance at the same time for a family function. It was weak, but it was
Yo,
there,
like, I mean, there's still a level of boldness to being 5 years old trying to bust up Michael Jackson in all capacities. That's bold, Trev. I'm glad we went here. This is a good start to this. So, that's cool. A lot of, you know what? Like, there is a high correlation between if somebody's doing singing and dancing in, let's say, your age bracket, and them saying Michael Jackson being who they did. That's, I don't know. I never thought about it before, but his name keeps coming up a lot with people who are older than I and their like love of his music. Which again, I missed that wave, right? Like it just wasn't part of it. So it's cool to hear you say that. So you would bust out this. Also,
Sorry.
it's fine. It's so nifty how much like children were like busting out like full on musicals back in the day. I don't know. Do kids do that? I don't have kids, right? So I don't know if that's like a thing kids still do. Do kids like bust out musicals all the time? I don't know. But that's so cool that you did, because not everybody I talked to did stuff like that. Were you also into drawing? Were you like a visual guy when you were young?
No, and I always wished my best friend growing up. I remember he used to draw Transformers for us, and like they were so detailed, and I would color them like I was coloring a coloring book. And I used to try, and he used to try to teach me, but it was lost, man. I mean, even to the day, I'm lucky if I can draw a pot leaf, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't have any artistic ability when it comes to my hands, that's for sure.
All right, but you're still singing and dancing, so that's still pretty
Oh
fucking
yeah.
blessed. Are you also one of those kids that was leveraging the tech around you to make little mixtapes or anything like that when you were young?
No, I'm from the generation. I'm gonna age myself, man. They call me
Mm.
elder, but
So it's
I
good
was
for
about
you.
6 years old when the Atari came out, and so my parents got us an Atari, and my grandparents were rocking the Intellivision. And so in any spare time that we had that we weren't doing like full blown family function stuff, I spent a lot of time playing video games. It exercised my super speedy mind. Video games were a focus for me to help
Hold
keep
up.
my hyperaction down.
But we're talking like 1983, like Atari shit, like the
We're talking
early.
like 1981, bro.
Nah, like so you were like living through, at least in a youthful way, the shit that I watch on YouTube with regards to like old gaming shit, like the whatchamacallit, the ET video game. Like you must have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did you ever play the ET Atari game?
Hell yeah, man. I remember, I can legit remember when it came out. My grandma used to like to spoil me and my brother. My parents hated it, but we go to Scarborough for the day, and my grandma would take us out to like the local Toys R Us, or I don't even think it was Toys R Us back then. I think it was like B Toys or something like that. And she nailed the ET game, and she was so excited for it, because ET was like a huge thing then, and it was hard to get this game, so she was really stoked for us. And I remember playing it for the first time. I think it was like 6 or 7 years old, and like the game was so confusing. It made no sense whatsoever. You played for like 10 minutes, and you're like, oh, give me my asteroids back, man. This is weak. And you didn't want to be rude to your grandma, because your parents back then, if you weren't grateful for the scraps you got, you were getting whole smacked upside your head, right? So
Mm.
your grandma, you would hear her coming down the hallway, and no matter what game you and your brother were rocking, like you ripped that cartridge out quick time, man, and slammed in that ET game and pretended like you were full blown into it. She's like, "Are you enjoying your game?" And we're just like, "Yes, grandma, yes." And she'd hang out for a minute and then peace out. We'd swap that game right the fuck back out.
Oh, that's incredible. So what were the lit games that were
Oh, the lit game, dude. I could go in my. I literally, if I'd known you were gonna ask me this, I'd go in my other room right now. I still have an Intellivision from 1981, and I searched high and low to find the game because the game is lit, man. It was called Tron Deadly Discs, and back then Tron was like way ahead of its time, right? Because the graphics for that movie were for that time were sick. So when the game came out, Tron Deadly Disc, you were just like this little stick figure in the middle of a square room,
bro? I
and
googled
dudes would
it.
come out. Yeah, you checking it right now? I knew you
Yeah,
are,
I'm gonna
man.
flash that over so y'all can see it right quick. That's what this looks like. Okay, yeah. That's so lit though. Like here's the thing, like I really appreciate this era of video games in particular because it was a wild west. It's effectively like the most grassroots hip hop era of the video game industry that it ever was going to be, where like you tried everything and you tried anything and you did all the things. And while sometimes you got ET, you also got this shit that turned into epic franchises that ended up being whatever. So it's like it's just cool to live your passion through it, see it a little bit.
No, yeah, they had a couple Star Wars games as they came out too. There was an Empire Strikes Back. That game was lit because you got to shoot down the walkers and stuff. So I mean, this is what entertained us back then. And then we'll get there eventually, I'm sure. But when the birth of Nintendo was like huge for my generation, right? Like it brought video games to a whole new level that we weren't really ready for yet. It was mind blowing at that time. So
Yo, but that's like so interesting because that's like probably the big issues of you being young. Like you, like while they
yeah,
debated video games for us, they must have really debated video games for y'all because it was new and So you lived through the video game crash and the birth of Nintendo.
yeah, and it was wild too because if you were a gamer, like they bigged up commercials were huge back then, and they really caught your eye when you were young. They weren't corny like today. They were really kind of cool. And they bigged up some things that really caught your attention. If you're old enough to know and remember, Nintendo had this thing called the Power Glove. And this was like revolutionary, man. So like they replaced the joystick and you put on this nylon glove that had plastic fingers, like plastic rubber fingers. And no matter how you moved your hand, and each finger was a different function. And so like it was actually the very original VR. even though it was wired, it was like this concept of a VR hand controller. And this was like 1991, maybe 1992. So it didn't get a lot of weight because it was really awkward to use and stuff. But from a gamer side of view, watching video games evolve, from the asteroids that we knew from playing quarters or your grandma's, and then you get this Nintendo comes out and it's all these bright colors and real music, not so much, 4-bit music anymore. You got some real theme music and true characters. The big thing for Nintendo was they now allowed you to like relate to your character. Prior
Okay.
to this, games didn't have characters in them. Tron was just a dude on the screen throwing a disc. There was no relation to it, no relation to Pac-Man, no relation to the asteroid's little triangle spaceship. But when Nintendo came out, they marketed it away so like you could relate to your character. You're now Mario in the game, chasing your loved princess to the end, and it really got gamers a lot more involved in the game when we could actually follow a story and follow a character's life story, like Zelda and stuff like that. They were legendary because you became so involved in the game, and that's where true gamers were born. Guys that sat in front of their Nintendos for 8 hours trying to figure stuff out.
Yo, my dad was
Remember,
one of
this
these
is
people. I swear, that's like what.
it's pre-internet too, though, right? So you got to remember,
Do you,
like, if
so
you
my
got stuck in a video game, you were fucked. Like it was like, fuck it, I'm gonna come back to that in a month and see if I can figure that shit out.
there was a
No
time
cheats, no
a little
shit,
bit
man.
later on in like the 90s when my dad would call 900 numbers for video game help, not for
Dude,
sex.
I did this. All right, I did it once. I can tell you what game it was. I can tell you what I was doing. It was the original Final Fantasy for
Oh my god,
Nintendo.
yeah, I've
Dude, I'm not
memories
even
of that.
joking.
I love that
So
game.
like, me too, dude. I downloaded a
Hardest
retro
video game
version
like
for my.
fucking ever. It was so hard.
Okay, so do you remember closer to the end you fought? It was it was an end boss, and everything that you threw at her, she had a mirror on her, and it would come back and it would reflect and it would hit you. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me because she'd kill you before you could do any melee damage. So all your spells and shit would bounce off her. And I tried for weeks, man, weeks. And you got to think I'm like 13 or 12 years old. Finally, you go in the back of the Nintendo book, and right at the very bottom, man, it says for tips on how to beat the level, call 1-900, blah blah blah, 2.99 a
This
minute, whatever the
fucking
hell it was.
gangster.
I got my ass whooped, bro. My dad got the phone bill, and he's like, "Are you calling sex lines and all this freaking?" I'm like, "No, Dad, I'm trying to fix a video game." Which made him actually even madder. I think my
It's like
dad would have
you
been
like your
happier to know his son was like calling to jerk off rather than call to get some video game help. So,
love
but
that.
yeah, I remember those times, bro.
So
Me and
it's
your
super
dad
crazy.
probably gamed.
Is so what ended up happening is I'm born in 87, right? So my dad is like you, went through that whole like rush that you're like describing, and he had me in his early 20s, so he had me like pretty young. um
Yeah,
and Dragon Warrior 1 was the first video game I ever beat. I swear, 7 years old. And then, shout out Ginny G, who says what's up to you, Trev. um
so
and then it was Final Fantasy 1 was the next game I played, and I got about halfway through. And if you recall correctly, on this console cartridge, if you use the N on a new save file and you're not paying attention, you're going to overwrite your file. So I'm halfway through the game and I wanted to try a different class because I'm 7, and I overwrote. Dude, I was after you get the fucking rat's tail thing that like ups you guys to the next class. I was after all that, and I just overwrote it on some dumb shit because I was a kid. And that was my first exposure to overwriting your save file, was Final Fantasy 1 at that age.
dude, I straight remember the birth of the memory card. It was PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64 that first brought the fucking birth of the save card. And it was like every gamer's fucking dream, man.
Do you remember
I
the
remember leaving
passcodes?
my yeah, dude.
It was
I
like,
remember calling up your buddies like midday and be like, "Yo, you got that fucking? Did you get that passcode for passing level 6 yet?" Shit like that, man. Back on the real phones where you had to like dial and shit.
or like the hacks like in Mario 3. where if you played the level certain right, you could use the flutes in right away to like skip the whole fucking game and get to the end. Yo, my dad basically gave me this education on that gaming culture you're describing when I was like fucking 5, because that's what he was up to. For real, real. He was the guy that would spend 8 hours, 9 hours, because you couldn't save. That was another big thing in a
Yeah.
lot of these games is you would literally have to run that NES almost 24 hours, 36 hours to beat it. Like it would be like I would get in trouble if we like kicked the adapter and unplugged the game. Like you don't understand. My dad would like lose his shit on some like
I'm,
you. I mean, I
I'm
get it.
there, man. I know I can totally relate to this, man.
I'm
The
really
worst
like,
is right, like because back then too, when we were like when the first gen of Nintendo came out, like nowadays it's common to have a TV in every room. Man, some motherfuckers got TVs in their bathrooms. But back when I was a kid, it wasn't like that, right? Like if you were a kid and you had a TV in your room, like in the 80s, you were fucking blessed and your family was probably rich as shit, right? And so most of our systems were hooked up to like the family TV, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So you'd
actually,
actually have to hide the fucking Nintendo behind the TV, right? Because the old man would come in to watch the hockey game and he'd see that fucking light on the Nintendo. And goddamn kids wasting power. You know, and he'd go and
oh, wasted powers.
fucking shut your game off after you come home from school, you're fucking stoked. You're like, old man's on swing shift. You're like, nothing can stop me from eating pizza pockets and fucking Coke and beating this game for 8 hours. You know, man. Then you come in and it's like that your whole fucking world at 15 just stops because you walk in the door, you're all fucking stoked, you got your chips and shit, and you look down at your Nintendo and the fucking light is off. And it's like you already know in your head what happened. You want to cuss your dad out and shit, but you don't say nothing, man. You're just like, oh.
It's one of those hard ones because, like, honestly, like, but
Is it
I
worth taking a swat from the old man to tell him he's an asshole? You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
nah, but it's so cool, man. It's so cool that you're like able to go back like that because this is like the foundation that creates the character that is Trev. So you
Yeah.
said you were getting into like talent shows or something, or somewhere around 9. You signed up to a school or something. I forgot what it
Nah,
was.
drum corps, man. They
That's
call it
right.
back then. They called it drum corps. If you were to look today and look back at it, most people would call it like band camp just because of the movie, right? But the base of this was I started this in 1986. I was 9 years old in '86 or something like that. Wow, I just gave half the world my age. Way to go.
Sorry, man.
I was.
Don't
It's all
worry.
good.
You
So
aged
I
gracefully,
started.
my guy. You're aging gracefully like a motherfucker.
It's the cannabis, I promise. So I was 9 years old, and it was funny because the whole drum corps organization, which was nationwide, the rules were that you had to be it was 12 to 21 was the age category. But my mom, God bless her, especially if she's watching today, she probably is.
Shout out,
My
Trev,
mom's
Elder
she's a
Jones'
slick
young
talker,
mother.
like she's a slick talker like me. So they were like, look, my older son's going in, my younger son, he's so full of youth and he loves to entertain and you really want to have him. So she convinced him to take me at 9. Now this had benefits. It also could be disastrous, man. Back in the 80s, times were a lot different. There were no cell phones. We even barely had cameras that we took around, like film cameras and shit. Shit was too expensive to have the film developed. So
Shit.
we did some shit, and I was 9 touring around. Okay, so let me give you a more of a base of what this is.
Love
So
it.
up to 128 teenagers from the ages of 12 to 21 join an individual drum corps. Everyone's got their own name, their own corps, their own band. And then through the entire winter up through spring, you spend every weekend and like 2 nights a week, you do practice. You're practicing how to play musical instruments. You're learning how to like march in formation and all this shit. And growing as a friend and growing as a group, right? But come summer, the last day of school, while everybody's screwing around for summer, we were getting on tour buses, right? All these teenagers, we'd pile onto these tour buses and then we'd travel across Canada and the United States, stopping here or there, and we'd put on a competition between all these different drum corps.
I
So,
gotta, I
and
gotta
we do
pause
it,
you for 1 second. What's a drum
yeah.
corps? Is it just a marching band?
It's yeah, for lack of better terms, it's a marching band. The only thing that separated a drum corps from a marching band was a drum corps didn't have any wood instruments. So no saxophones, no flutes in the pussy, no fucking shit. Like it was all just brass musical instruments and drums,
Mm.
right? No woodwind instruments as they're called. I know, man, it's silly, but
No,
so
I don't find it silly. I love these distinctions. I really think it's cool that you're making them. Like, I think it's fucking cool that you're somehow touring at like fucking 9 years old, and I'm like killing myself trying to
nine.
tour in my 30s. You know, like I'm like Trev is just fucking cool. That's what I'm hearing.
So we'd travel around like from state to state or province to province, and every couple of days we'd stop in a state, right? And we would stay at a high school or something because it's summer. So right, so we'd all sleep in a big gym together. Every morning you get up and you hit the football field with your instruments. And they make it. I mean, it's such intricate movement between 128 kids playing musical instruments while creating formations that are moving across an entire field. It's actually, it takes a lot of work and it's actually really physical. You're standing in the sun all day at a young age, holding up a musical instrument,
What did you play?
giving it 90. I'm a drummer, bro. I strapped on they were called quads. So I wear a harness and then there's 5 drums out in front of me. So you're playing like back and forth all the time while marching. It's probably why I had back surgery at 20, in retrospect. But no, so we'd travel around and you'd stop and you'd do a 12-minute performance. So you perform like 4 different songs through the musical instruments, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the night, all the corps would take the field and we'd all get judged. You'd get a score and that's it. Back on the fucking bus and you're off
So it's
to,
like that Nick Cannon
Idaho.
movie. It's drumline.
100 fucking 1,000%. It couldn't be portrayed any better. Like Bandcamp was a bit of a fetch, but Drumline was legit what it was really all about.
Right.
And so we'd do this all summer and you'd meet all of these kids from all these other drum corps. So like 128 kids per drum corps, 12 to 15 drum corps per competition. You got like fucking 1,500 teenagers all running around together, mixing and mingling from different fucking cultures, different parts of the world, different languages, different races, different everything, man. But all brought together for one passion and one love of music. And some drum corps would do jazz, and some drum corps would do military music, and some would do big band and fan music and all this stuff. And so I did this from my time I was 9 years old right up until I was 20.
No
Even with all the
shit.
other shit you're gonna pick my brain about and all the weird shit, the real memories and the people from my neighborhood that know me a bit more of a badass never knew that every summer, that badass from the hood was taken off on a bus and going to play in a band camp drum corps with a bunch of band nerds. And this was my real passion, right? And so that really brought me around musically to be an entertainer, to want to just, always be in the spotlight and always want to be right there making people smile, whether it's doing something goofy or doing something talented or just something to make people smile all in all. I mean, I've never had a music career, so I don't really know what it's like to be on stage and have people just cheering your name and shit like that. But I mean, I've sat at the front of a football field and I've played for 27,000 people, and got a standing ovation after.
I don't
And
think
I
it feels
mean,
that different, to be honest.
I don't know if it would, to be honest, but I mean,
Like
it's
maybe if they were saying my name more, okay, that part might be a little better. But that's it. Otherwise, it's kind of like the same vibe, just love.
yeah, it was such a cool feeling. I mean, my life took a different direction when I was 20. I should have, in retrospect, if I'd known what I know now, I would have pursued a way different life path. But looking back, music played such a huge part in the harmony of my life, and opening me up socially and opening up my social shell. Anybody that can put on a band uniform and a shako and dance in front of 27,000 people, generally isn't going to have a lot of a lot of embarrassing moments in his life.
Or at least you're willing to put yourself through the whatever for the bigger benefit or the bigger purpose of it all. So that's big respect
Yeah.
to us. Man, I don't know how many people knew that you did that, but That
Not
sounds
many,
like
but it's out there now.
so like it sounds like it was like a giant party across North America that you would throw and be a part of every summer.
Every single summer. And of course, when I was young, I'd watch all the older kids, and I wasn't allowed to, partake. I watched these. I was like that little squirt that was always trying to hang around. So they get me to do some really quirky, goofy shit, when we'd be out of town and stuff, and it really opened me up. But when I was like 15, 16 and traveling the United States with 15, 1600 other teenagers, these were some life experiences and that really helped people grow. Looking back, it was a lot more that there's a lot of stuff I wouldn't be able to say on camera that happened during those times. I'll say this: if my boy Mike Chatterton's watching, shout out to my boy Mike, shout out to my boy Jeremy Goldie, because I know they both watch my other show. We were talking once the other day. We said, "Where's the most unique and memorable place you ever got high?"
Mm,
And it was
I saw
funny
that
because
post.
all three of us said the same thing. It was in Iverwin Stadium in Buffalo. I think we were 16 years old. We bought what they called a three-finger bag in Buffalo. I didn't even know what the fuck that was, for $30. And the kid was like 13. We were only 15. It wasn't a big deal, but the weed was probably the most chronic we'd ever gotten. And we traveled all around the United States and Canada. So, it was a bold statement. So we walked up to the very top. And now when you're performing at drum corps, right? Picture a stadium, a football field, right? Look at the 50-yard line, and we're facing one way, right? So everything on the other side of the field is empty. There's nobody watching from there because we're playing towards the crowd.
Right.
So all the juveniles like myself and my homeboys and shit, we would go hang out on the other side of the stadium. Because like there, the chaperones wouldn't give you shit for leaving the stadium. You could still chat with your boys from other drum corps and shit without having to talk over the music and shit. So we'd walked all the way to the top of Iverwin Stadium. And if you've never been in an NFL stadium, man, let me tell you, walking to the top, the tip top, the nosebleeds that's some hike, man. And so we got up there and we rolled up a bunch of fatties. We sat up there, we burned. We burned up there because we figured everybody on the other side can see us burning. So that's kind of fucking funny. And then we kept thinking, well, if anybody comes up, that's a hell of a hike for them to come up and get us before we can toss the fucking tube, right? But my boy Mike Chatterton, here you go. Shout out to my boy Mike. So we're trying to walk down the stairs to come back after we're high. We're so high though, bro. And the stairs seemed so steep that we stopped and we took a break. And they had an American flag, a Canadian flag. I'm pretty sure it was a Quebec flag or a Chinese flag. I can't remember, bro. But these were huge. They covered like 15 rows of seats and like went over like an entire section, right? My boy Mike, so we're sitting right next to these flags, trying to catch our breath by walking down. My boy Mike goes behind the American flag, drops his fucking drawers, and like moons the entire fucking stadium with his ass pressed up against the American flag. And we were like dying, man. And we saw this on the video, like, well, it was like 8 months later, one of those parents, that was always camcording and shit. She brought it, and you can legit see my boy going behind the American flag, like pulling his ass out and shit. So it was some wild times back in drum corps, but a lot of shit we probably won't talk about today.
No, I wasn't even expecting that. I was just letting you go because that was a serious story. I don't want you to go incriminating people on cam. You can incriminate them off cam and let me know what happened then. But like, no, that's serious. So that's like a lot of high school. I guess that took up a lot of your free time then, because you're basically heavily involved in this. And then where are you from though in Ontario? We didn't really establish that. Is you said you went to Mississauga, so I think you said that. So that means you weren't. Are you from a smaller town? Or are you from where?
Yeah, yeah. So I was born in Scarborough, but I grew up in Whitby. I was in Whitby from the time I really can remember until I was 21. 21 is when I finally left, had the courage to leave small town. I felt, for anybody that lived in a small town, you know what it's like. You either have two inclinations. You're ambitious and you're going to leave that small town when you're young, or you're like you feel anchored to it and you're never going to leave.
Mm.
And I remember looking at people like around my neighborhood, that I grew up with, like grew up and they were already part of the neighborhood. It was like I was like 15, then turning 18, and then 19, and it was like same people, same houses, same shit, same drama, same, nothing had changed in like 19 years. And I was like, I can't be a part of this much longer. This is crazy. This is what I'm not built for, this small town life kind of thing. And I was 21 or 20 when I finally packed up and moved to downtown Toronto, which at that time, I don't suggest it anymore, but at that time when Toronto was a lot safer, I think everybody should have experienced the first bit of their 20s, in a major metropolitan center, man. The culture, the everything that you get exposed to is so imperative in your journeys in life. I feel like being in a small town is so sheltered. So when I got to Toronto, it was eye opening. It was culturing. I never wanted to leave.
Mm.
Right. But since then I've been everywhere, bro. Now I'm in small town Coburg. you know?
Oh, but that's super dope. So basically, what happens when you get to Toronto? What is a young Trev Jones up to?
Oh man. So for anybody watching this, I apologize in advance. And for my family, sorry. It's no secret, actually. I talk about it very openly these days because I like to inspire and encourage people. As you know, I'm a healer and an educator by trade. Talking about my past, I was troubled, man. I was on a path of destruction coming into my late teens. And Toronto, as culturing as it was, offered a lot of fuel to that fire.
Mm.
And so, I got a little crazy and I got a little wild, definitely dabbled on the other side of the law, got in trouble a few times for sure. So the story goes, I originally moved to Toronto to get away from, we all have that story, running from that one ex, just no matter where you go in the town, something to always remind you. So I kind of like took a leap of faith and I packed everything up and I went to Toronto like with nothing, my car, a couple garbage bags full of clothes, and I think probably like $600 in my pocket if I was even lucky. And the only person I knew in T Dot was my real brother's roommate, who was
Mm.
like this openly gay guy who lived in the gay ghetto of Toronto. And he was a drum corps guy. That's how I met him. He was a drum corps instructor from when I was a kid. And so I reached out to him and I was like, hey man, like I really need to get a fresh start. Like I'm out in T Dot. I don't know where to go. And he was like, yeah, yeah, could, come by the house. He's very good friends with my mom, like very safe, I knew I'd be safe with this guy. And so he showed me the ropes of downtown Toronto and the ins and outs and the underbelly. And so I got involved. I got involved in a business that was borderline legal, borderline illegal. I tried to open a very legal and a very legitimate escort agency at the time.
Mm.
But it wasn't quite as acceptable back then as it was today. And I got myself in some trouble and became a guest of the province um, for a good chunk of time. Just under a year, I was gone, and it gave me a long time to contemplate my life and what I wanted to do next. And I knew that this wasn't it. Being as open and creative as I was, locking me up, in a 4x6, for so long, and them trying to, tell you what you're going to do and what you're going to eat, and how you can think and when you can talk. Geez, right down to when you can piss and take a shit. And I was like, this is not going to be the fucking life for me. This I loved the high pace of that side of life, but the end result where I was became a real reality and really quick. You never think it's going to happen when you're rolling like that, and then everything's gone, and you're sitting there in your 4x6, and you've got nothing but your thoughts. And it's a lot of time to think and reflect. And I was graceful enough to reflect in positivity and take what was going on around me and reflect and say, this isn't something I want to be like. This isn't me. I'm not going to live like this. I'm going to do better things with myself than this. So once I got out, it was change of pace, get out of Toronto, go somewhere where I couldn't get in so much trouble. But yeah,
So
that bring you up to speed a bit.
where did you end up after Toronto?
Ironically, man, I got out of Toronto. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I hadn't had a lot of contact with my dad because my dad was a British Navy officer. So he was like super, super strict. And so when I was running around like an idiot, I didn't have a lot of contact with my dad. But when I got back out on the street and looking for somewhere to go and something to do, my dad was getting married like 2 weeks after I got out in a little town called Belleville. I'd never heard of this place, man. I was like, all right. So I show up in Belleville. I got a hotel room for the weekend for my dad's wedding gig, and I reconnected with my now like my stepmom, her nephew, who when I met he was like 5 years old or 6 years old. He was just a little shit, but now he was like this grown up wannabe street gangster kid. And so he popped up into my hotel room and he was like, "Hey man, I've been kind of keeping up with what you've been doing with yourself. Why don't you move out here to Belleville with me? And we'll kick it and we'll see what we can get going." And I was like, I didn't really have any other options. I was like, fuck else am I gonna do? This seemed like I could dabble my feet without getting too wet. You know what I mean? So I came out to Belleville, where I ended up staying for 10 years.
Mm.
And I gotta tell you, man, I went to Belleville to get away from crazy Toronto life. And it was ironic because when I got to Belleville, it was a crazier life than I'd ever had in Toronto. Make no mistake, man. Belleville's only like 49,000 people or something like that, but it's like 48,000 badasses in Belleville, man.
That's so
The whole,
serious.
it is, bro. I'll tell you, man. Like just to give you, I know you're gonna ask me a gazillion questions about everything I just dropped, but
Well, I mean,
to
the one
give you
part I
to
can
give
say
you a
is I know what Belleville is. I've been there one time because I went to Loyalist College to go, not for anything other than cadets, because one of
oh
the
shit.
cadets things happens every summer, the introduction to aviation course. So I spent 3 weeks in Loyalist College near Belleville, and what I can tell you is it's a military town, if I'm not mistaken, because there's a base nearby.
Yeah, Trenton, which is right next door, has one of Canada's biggest air bases, right? And
Yeah.
Loyalist College is literally smack in between Belleville and Trenton. It's
Yeah, that's
funny you
so
say
cool. I
Loyalist, man.
love it, man. Like that was one of my favorite moments. I have the best memories of that part of town.
It's funny because Loyalist is where I met Classified and Choclair for the very first time, man. I never even
Yeah,
heard of these
sick.
cats. Went down and saw them. Met Class on his tour bus. Sold him a quarter of weed. The rest is fucking history. I've been in two of his videos. Shocks is my personal friend,
Wow.
but
That's like so
yeah,
fucking
Belleville.
cool.
Belleville was nuts though, man. Because just to give the people a perspective that are like, Belleville. Belleville had 49,000 people, and in 2013 in Belleville, was it 2013 or 2012? I'd have to look to be sure. But there were 14 separate violent murders in Belleville, which put them in like the third most dangerous city in all of Canada per capita. But if you do the math, I know you're a math guy like me.
Yeah.
So 14 violent murders and 49,000 people. That means you had like a one in fucking 3,100 chance of getting fucking whacked. I was like, yo, I said, this is worse than Toronto, man. I should probably get the fuck up out of here too.
No, for real. It is definitely a serious. So I got distracted. He mentioned the Shark Tank, and I'm like, oh my fucking god, I know what that is. I've been at the Shark Tank because we were there. That is so fucking cool that you met Classified at that place, and like,
Yeah.
fuck, man. Like, and then pivoted to heavy murder rates and per capita. That's actually a pretty staggering number. That's pretty scary, and I
Yeah.
would not actually consider. Like, you wouldn't really think about it like that, but You're not the first person I've talked to from what I don't know. I call it small town Ontario. I don't know what else to
Yeah,
describe this phenomenon, but
you
you're not
nailed it, man.
you're not the first person to describe that it's, let's say, actually more rough than, say, the city vibes that I'm used to, because I'm Montreal, like, all the way through it, right? And I'm not gonna downplay that Montreal has its things, but Montreal does not have its things quite like that, quite to the same degree where I come from, where I grew up, my realities, like it wasn't that at all. But it sounds like in a small town, because of its like small towniness, there is no like avoiding things. You're just there. Like you're like, how do you do it? Like how like you're. I live in NDG. It's 150,000 people. That's just one suburb of Montreal that is 3 times the size of what you just described.
Yeah, it's they had a saying in Belleville, and it was so true. In Belleville, you're doing one of three things, man. You're fucked, you fight, or you hold the light. And that's what they always said, man. And it was true. If you go to the roots, you're like me, man. I like history. I like to dig. I like to know shit. I smoke weed and I like to know shit. That's my shit.
Actually, that is my shit.
So me too, man. I'm sitting in this town for about 3 years, and I'm thinking, why the fuck is this place so fucked up? And so I started looking into it. It comes from a mining and a port background, right? So when you dig back into the roots and you go back to it being a mining community and a shipping port community, so morals and values and family values are very low. There were a lot of split and broken homes like way back when that whole city originated from all of the history. And it was amazing to see how that carried from generation to generation to generation. I was looking back at statistics from the 20s and the 30s from Belleville. It was like, holy fuck, and then you look at 2012 and all these murders. And I'll tell you this, and this is no secret, and I know I got a lot of Belleville fans that watch and support, and they'll tell you straight, man. There were two nightclubs in Belleville. One was called Matt and Joe's, and one was called Little Texas. I think Little Texas is still there. I know Matt and Joe's is closed, but they used to do like a thing at Matt and Joe's on Thursday nights, and then a thing at Little Texas on Friday, a thing on Saturday, and a thing on Sunday, back and forth. And because it's so small town, anybody who was anybody, was out at these clubs from
Right.
10 p.m. right through till 3 a.m. in the morning, right? And at the end of every night, every Thursday, every Friday, every Saturday, every Sunday, there would be full-size parking lot fist fights. And I mean like 7-on-7, 10-on-10, 12-on-12. And then you'd think one fight would be over, and then you'd turn around and there'd be a blasting fucking full-blown fight going on behind you. So you were like one of these people that was either sitting there eating popcorn, like this was your fucking nightly entertainment, which, trust, man, it was entertaining. Or you were in these fights that were going on all the time. And it sounds brutal, but there was something really sporty about it with the town. Like they get into fucking fights, but then they just get up and walk away, and then 2 days later you'd see these same guys drinking in a house together, split heads open, and they'd be like, yeah, man, it was a good fucking fight. And they, at the backyard brawls, they'd set up, you go to houses, like you go to a party, man, and like mid party, everybody's like, fuck yeah, and strapping on fucking gloves, and they're busting out the chalkboard, and who's fighting who tonight. And they'd set up the backyards to be like backyard fucking, not bare knuckle, they got the gloves on and shit. But you go to the whole city was like violent as hell. It was like there was everywhere you went, even if you tried to avoid it, it was just there all the time. Belleville was a hell of a violent city, man.
Yo, but it's serious.
So it's
like,
it didn't do much to get away from the craziness,
I didn't even know where this interview was going to go, because you can't Google most people that I know. As in, you can Google them, but good luck trying to find useful story life information. But that's what we really do here, is we walk through people's stories, because we never know where it's going to go and all of that. But firstly, shout out Ginny G123 on the follow, because that's real cool. I just don't want to cut off Trev. And, yo, I appreciate our sailor, with just kind of pointing out it's safer now. As much as it's cool to talk about the past, like, yo, Montreal, apparently, like, where I'm living right now, 30 years ago, you would not be living here if you look like me, is what, and now it's like, it's a completely different vibe and a completely different energy. But also, when I talk to other people, right, and I don't know their past, and I didn't know necessarily what it used to be like in certain neighborhoods. It's like you don't appreciate why they may have certain mannerisms or ideologies or certain things. So, like, getting that context that this might be a more prevalent thing as I deal with more people in Ontario. Like, I didn't know how little I knew about Ontario until I started talking. Just talking to people. Like, I just didn't know that, and then I started
Ontario's
learning more.
fucked up, man.
Like, it's just a
Ontario's
whole
fucked
different
up,
vibe
bro.
than Quebec. Like, I was thinking, like, I don't really know what the fuck Canada is because I don't really know that I'm fully like ingratiated into Canada. I'm a Montrealer in Quebec. It's a whole different world.
Yeah, I've been out your way maybe twice, and both times I was there for an education course, man. So I was in a class all week. I didn't even get to check the city out. I've never seen the nightlife out there. It was always a thing when we were growing up too, because Montreal was like where it was at. They don't know if, not the stereotype, but they're always talking about your guys' strip joints, right? So when you were like 19, 20, and they're like, yo, what should we do? What should we do? Yo, let's take a weekend trip to Montreal. Montreal's where it's at.
Is that really a thing? Y'all like
I
hype up
swear
our
to
strip
God, bro.
clubs?
Yeah, no joke, man. No joke. When I was at least all the way through my 20s, it was always a hype thing, no matter what city I was in, man. People talk about Montreal like it was the Las Vegas of fucking Canada. If you
That's
went to
good to
Montreal, you
know.
were getting fucking laid. If you were going to Montreal, you were getting the best fucking dope. Bikers, that's where the bikers are all from Montreal. You go to Montreal, you might get your head bopped off by a biker, or you're gonna be, yeah, no, I'm telling you, best strippers ever, biggest titties, like the stories that we
Oh, the
talked
18
about.
is a big one. That one I knew about. 18 makes a lot of sense. That one,
Yeah.
yeah, we do drink at 18, everyone. Well,
Oh yeah,
weed's
and you know
21,
what?
so it's probably
You
better to.
motherfucker. How y'all get the Coors Light cube? I mean, I don't even drink
The
anymore, so I
fuck
don't
is a
give a shit.
Coors Light cube? I don't even know
I
what
don't
that
know,
is.
man, but my friends, they go to Quebec and they come back with this 60 pack of cans.
Oh,
You should only
okay.
get it in Quebec or some shit, man. You can't get that shit, dude.
Oh, that looks so nifty. Okay, I see that
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. It's called the cube or something like
Oh,
that. Yeah,
because
you
Ice
can't get it
Cube's
here.
involved in it. So it's the cube because of Ice Cube. All right, all right. Okay, now you're all like, I can't see it. That's what I Googled, everyone. Now you can see it. Okay. I'm not really a big beer drinker, but there's like a huge beer culture here. Like, motherfuckers be all up in the low end beers, big end beers, the ones that they do at the bars, the drafts. I don't know my beer shit, okay? IPAs, I think, is a word that's popping up in our towns. I don't know beers like
Sure.
that, but I know that, like, they can basically fucking put beers in magical sized giant ass boxes in his house party fodder in Montreal. And there is a huge house party scene, like especially in places like the West Island, where there is like 6 bars for like the whole fucking thing or whatever, right? Or I think like it's illegal to have bars in Verdun, like you just can't over some shit. So in places like that, you're not left with a lot of options. So they basically realized we could just make like the 99 pack, and they'll buy it. So they do.
I would in a minute, man. I'm you. I don't drink a lot of beer anymore. I'm stuck on these like girly coolers. If I'm gonna have a drink, I'm like one of these fucking berry blast or blue
Yo, but that's the
frost or
shit
blue
though.
freeze,
They're
whatever the fuck it's called.
delicious. They're
Dude,
delicious.
I love my friends, like my manly friends. And that, they're always like, oh, yeah, that's fucking cool. Get your bitch drink on and all this. And I'm like, listen, man, at the end of the day, it tastes fucking. I'm not drinking one now. This is actually just me over. It tastes fucking good, and I'm gonna get drunk in 2 of them at these 7% shit. You're gonna drink 12 of these yeast hop infested, bloaty ass fucking things, and you want to talk about which one of us is smarter or more manly? Come on,
Yo,
man.
I think it's because like there's a learning curve to beer. Like a lot of people, and again, I have the beer conversation way more in my life than you would think as a person who says I don't like beer. So you get the justifications for it. And people always say this shit to me. If you learn to like it, that's a bad starting point for me.
Yeah, for real. Like,
If you learn to like it, you're going to love it. And I'm like, I like rum and coke already. I already like rum and coke. It's like, how are you gonna hate on a rum and coke?
I'm still on I'm like, if you learn to like it. I'm like, man, I'm elder. I get this all the time. You know, my mom, God bless you, mom, if you're watching. My mom says the same dumb shit to me for the last 35 years of my life, man. She'll say shit like, you know, you need to try it when you're a little older. Come back and visit it when you're older. You might like that, you know? So I go to my mom's. I haven't seen her since September, fucking COVID. But we go to my mom's, right? My mom, she was a pastry chef when we were growing up. And so she's really creative in the kitchen, right? Like even with regular food, my mom's super creative. And I'm not. Like I'm the plainest motherfucker, man. I'm a steak, potato, beans. We're good.
My people.
Pork chops, broccoli, fucking rice. I'm good. You know, like white rice too. Don't even put shit in the rice. I'm good, man. You know,
I do like to go rice
listen.
and peas.
My ideal lunch is two pieces of fucking ham, one piece of cheese on plain white bread, man. No butter, no mustard, no. This is how plain I eat, right? So I'll be like in my 40s, and my mom will come over. Or I'll go over to my mom's, and she'll have some shit I can't even pronounce and doesn't even look appetizing, and she'll be like, "No, try this. You know, you'll like it now that you're older." And I'm always like, no, I'm old enough that I know what I like. I'm just gonna stay on the fucking path I'm on, you
Yo,
know?
I swear, I hear you on that. Or this one's for my girlfriend. Wouldn't it be nice? I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna be nice. Sometimes the wouldn't it be nice is go in directions. When they're involved in food and shit, they're usually like, nah, I'm good, man. I like I tell people with all dead assness, yo, I could eat chicken like every day. Let's say like 6 days a week. Throw in some whatever, maybe a 5-2 split of beef and chicken, mostly chicken. Good. Throw in some pasta here and there, a few veggies here and there. Like really, whatever nutritionally gives me the math I need to like function. Smoothies, that's fruit shit. Alright, we got fruit shit. I can vary it up. So simple. Don't have to think. Repeat. Less decision making in my life. Move on. Let the food be simple. Unless you make it. And if you make it, I'll eat it.
See, my wife doesn't I cook for my house. So she gets it. If she wants to like spice it up and shit, I give it to her the way that I make it. There's spices, there's everything she could need to make things, you know, a little bit spicier for herself. But she knows if I'm cooking it, man, you know, black pepper is like the extent. I'm keeping it plain, you know?
I respect that you're a man who knows. I respect that you even just said, I know what I like. Leave me alone and let me be everyone. I'm old enough to know better. I did it. I
Yeah,
lived long
man.
enough to hit this old enough period you're supposed to get to, which is not defined except that. That's funny because it happens to everyone. I bet everybody
Yeah.
watching has had that moment happen to them where somebody way older has said that and they're like, nah, I achieved old enough. All right. So you're around Belleville for a minute. I don't know what else you're up to. I don't know what you're doing up in that part of life. You're just being a person, doing your things. Um, I don't know what comes next. What comes after Belleville? Where do you go after that?
Well, I won't get
Or
into any detail, but I'll say, out of all the places I've been and being a guest of the province in some of the nastiest places, the most pivotal turning point in my life, which really defines and changes everything, like the real moment that it all changed. We went to an after hours party, me and a real good friend, and it was a setup, and there was some horrific violence took place, and everybody was good after, but I woke up that morning and it was like, that's it. Like never again will I be in this position for to even be around it.
mm,
And I left Belleville on a whim. I went back to my hometown. I stayed with a drum corps friend, someone I've known for 30 something years, you know, and that was the bond drum corps people have. It's like you call them on the fucking phone and they're there. And I was like, look, I got to get out of here, man. And so I flashed out, and it took about 3 months for me to really transition and change the phone numbers and drop the contacts and define who was really your friend and who was just part of that life that you held on to.
oh, yo, that's the biggest thing you said just there. When you
Well, it
evolve,
was also,
because you can
yeah,
generalize it when you evolve to decide who is actually your friend and who is just in that whirlwind of circumstances that existed around you. Because I say that as like double it down, because I find sometimes people think they're friends, but they're not
I'll do you
actually
one
friends.
word. I'll do you one deeper. Because I was starting to study Buddhism, I found an enlightenment to myself in Buddhism, that like there was this part of me that had always been there, that was probably just screaming to fucking be a way of life for me. But I was so wrapped up in that reputation, need the flex all the time, blah, blah, fuck, I need that car, I need that chain, bullshit, all the bullshit dreams that they fucking tell you should chase, and there was this part of me, this inner peace that was just fucking longing to get out. And so when I was transitioning, like you said, the deepest part about when you're deciding who's your friend and who's not, I'll let this one marinate with you too, bro, is you sit and you think and you look at these friends, and as you like, we do this so much, you know, all the time. I challenge anybody to do that in your fucking contact list. Pull up your contact list and fucking do that. And just take a quick glance at every person that you go by. If you're anything like myself, I get flooded with a gazillion memories in fractions of a second just looking at their name. And so I looked and I'm like, you don't need to be a part of my new life. This. And you stop at some people though, and you think that they're so deep in that life that you need to get away. But then you ask yourself, if you can change, why can't I bring them along to change with me?
Mm.
You know, and to quote a really good friend of mine, you know, you can't soar like an eagle when you're surrounded by turkeys, right? And I
Yeah.
think about that a lot, as funny as fucking shit as it is, and it's a cool little saying. But I speak metaphorically to my friends all the fucking time. I think deep, and I try to give passive messages to people. But when you think about that on a level, there's also that inside you that wants to say, well, like maybe some of these turkeys ain't been given a chance to be an eagle yet either, right? So you struggle with
Mm.
changing your life so pivotably, but while enlightening yourself, you're thinking those people that you really care about that are in that other life that you don't want to be a part of anymore, do you take them with you?
Yo,
You put
it's
that
it's
effort in to
actually a
say, look,
really
you got to check this out, man. Listen, this isn't for us. I know you're not like that. Come with me, right? And where do you give up and say, no, fuck, maybe they're not? And that was a huge, huge struggle for my life for the first year of actually, studying Buddhism and taking that major change of life, was drawing a line in the sand and saying, how much effort do I put in to save those friends of mine that, I want them to see what I see right here. And that's putting it really lightly for such an in-depth, deep mental state that I
yeah.
was going through at that
Yeah,
time.
I really, it resonates a lot with me because in the last couple of years, my whole world has changed. It's not what it used to be. My priorities are no longer what they were. Um, I know I can come off like a pompous asshole, but a lot of it is because I'm trying to play this character as I'm an entertainer. It is what it is. But like on the real,
We're
it's
on
like,
screen, it's different.
but like off cam, man, I'm a lot more meek. Like I'm really paranoid a little bit because like how do you siphon through the intentions of people? And then like you said, like so you come across somebody and you think they're really interesting, and then you see they're living like a way that you maybe don't fully subscribe to or align with, or and it's not a judgy thing. I just know that there's certain
Nah.
environments that I don't think I could do well. As in, I would fuck up. I would do one of those things you're not supposed to do, and I would fuck it up. So I try not to be like that because I don't have like the skill to navigate these worlds. But then you look at other people, and I look at it like equated to like I want to make real money. I don't want to make small money. And it's like, how do you explain to people how to make real money once you've seen the light? Once you see kind of like that like bigger picture of where things can be at? How do you go back and like explain like, yo, maybe that's not it? How much of your time and effort to put into an individual, knowing that everyone's ultimately gonna just do what they want, regardless of what makes sense to you, to me. Like, cause I know it makes sense to me. So when I
True.
hear what you're saying, it resonates a lot with me because, yo, that's like, that's my day and now. That's today for me. So it's cool that
Right.
you bring it like that because I don't know how to make that distinction, but I know that you learn. I feel like you find it within yourself and where your own boundaries are, and that there is no like globalization for it unless you have a
I,
globalized wisdom to it, because you might.
I feel like I feel like growing up, I try to rationalize it like to myself like this. A lot of my loved ones say to me all the time, why are you still trying to help that guy? Why are you trying to still help that girl? Should have gave up a long time ago. And I can't explain to them enough. And my own mother and my aunt, if they're both watching, will vouch and say, there was a time in my life where everybody had given up on me.
Okay.
There was no one there except my mom, God bless. um, and society, general society, especially as a small town, you get a reputation real quick. I did my first like YO stint when I was 15 years old, and it involved a weapon.
Hold on. Is YO
So when
youth
you,
offender? Is that what that means?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So when you're young, and you're in a small town like that, and you do something as drastic as it was, word spreads quick. And then when you continue on that path all the way till you leave the small town, you've earned that reputation. You're lost cause. There's no hope for him. He's this, he's that,
Yo,
all the
you're
other things
speaking
I've
on
heard.
some big shit right now.
So when you fast forward now to my life, to where I made that transition, and the irony is that I went back to my hometown and stayed with one of my friends who knew me from time I was starting to bang my first drum to when I was getting my first set of bracelets, and taken out of my family home, and they've seen my whole life, they've been a part of the whole thing, and for them to watch that transition in my hometown. So that was really ironic to look back. But now I look and I say to people all the time, I can't just give up. I'm the poster child for people can truly change.
I love it.
They say once you're a criminal, you're always a criminal. Once a criminal record, you'll never get away from it. And a lot of people, when they make the change that I made, they try to hide from their criminal record and they'll hide it. I had no choice but to embrace it and use it as part of my educational platform to try to inspire, especially the younger generations that I work with, and say, like, let me tell you this. I'm not your dad. I'm not your fucking uncle. I'm not your brother. I'm just telling you because I've been there. And I'm going to say, if I can save you 10 years of heartache by sharing my experience with you, you know, tell you that fucking chain you're chasing, that fast ass car and all that shit, this is what they make it look like on TV and then fucking videos. And yeah, that's great and all that. You want to flex. But at the end, there's only like a handful out of a gazillion guys who tried to live that life who make it in the end. And the struggles to get there, the loss of family, the loss of ties, the violence I've seen and been exposed to. If when I share that with people in the depths of, yeah, this is my criminal record. I ain't been in trouble in like 12, 15 years or some shit. I lost count, but I share it openly instead of hide it, because that way you can be some kind of inspiration. Don't try to be a fucking hypocrite. Don't try to fucking say, I've all changed and this is all great, and try to pretend that you weren't something that you were back in the day. I was that guy. That shit that people talk about back in Whitby, that asshole, that fucking meathead. Yeah, that all that shit's true, right? It's just not the person that stands here before you today. That journey that I've taken to get here, you know. But to try and deny the past or pretend it didn't exist or that criminal record isn't there, that's just being fraud, and that's no way to be inspirational to anybody else or help anybody motivate to become, to say that that's not the only way of life. That's not it, bro. There's more to it. You got to find that transitional point within yourself and move it, right?
Yo, that's a lot of things that I philosophically align with that you just said that are like really huge. When did you start your educational platform? I don't know a lot about that, but like what you just said, a lot of people need to hear, I think, especially that people don't change things. It's a huge narrative. I call it like it's like baked into this middle class normative perception of life that's propagated by media, this, that, excuse this, whatever, whatever. But it's like a real thing where like people who get that like criminal label are legitimately shamed. I've seen it in quote unquote good company multiple times in my career. Like the day job shit. So like the
Yeah.
part where like people get stigmatized in a way, I can only imagine, especially the reputation thing. Like yo, I made some
Yeah.
fucking mistakes where I puked on my dick in 2011 in front of colleagues, and then I puked again 4 years later. Done. To this day, done.
Still talk about that shit.
Motherfuckers, like yo, it's over. Like it doesn't matter what I did to like change it. Even like to change that perception of not being like that
You can't.
rambunctious. Even though I
Unless
haven't,
you do something extremely pivotal
yeah, like but you
that people
can.
notice. I
But
mean, you
like
can do it
it
within
took years.
yourself.
So it took me like 4 to 5 years of not drinking at work events to be like, but look, I haven't even touched alcohol at the events in this many years. You know, all the different things like that. So it's like doable, but like it could take like 5 6 years to convince people that you've like actually like evolved to a new point. Um, I'm like, yo, Trevor's like the slyest man. Most people just like that was like 6 skills. Like you do real Zoom calls. Like you do fucking money Zoom call meetings with that fucking slick ass mute fucking skills that you got going on right there.
You like that?
I did. That was
That's
slick.
what, dude. I've been doing shows now for a year and a half. I have learned how to slick it. Man, last week I burned my fucking hand on a live show. I grabbed this right here. For the folks that don't know, I'm very deep involved in the cannabis industry. We're gonna get to that obviously
Yeah,
right here. It's
yeah.
coming to that
This is
point.
the warm up part.
But this is one of the tools and things and tricks of my trade. It's called an e-nail. This little thing in my hand right now is 740 degrees, and it keeps things to a hot temperature so I can continue to consume cannabis without any effort. Point being, I did a live show last week, and 5 minutes into my show, I knocked this thing over, and I instinctively fucking grabbed it with like the whole palm of my hand. So, oh yeah, man, you should have seen it. I somehow managed to keep the show going, wiping tears from my eyes while keeping them muted and talking and out. Wrapped my hand in CBD, a whole shit ton of ice cubes, and then wrapped it with a dish towel and did another 55 minutes of the show. It's crazy, man.
Bruh, I commend that.
Anyways,
I'm a
thank you.
wimp for
Thank you.
burning pain. Like the pain, because yo, pains are different. You can punch me, I can handle that pain. The pain of burning, that's a serious, like that's like this deep ethereal pain that doesn't go away. So big respect on that one. Um, I can't even wait to get into the cannabis part. It's so fucking. There's so many things I've been curious about as like an old timey smoker joint guy. But like for real, I want to hear about the educational thing because you're saying it like when did that start? So you come out, you change, you decide to go on this like spiritual journey. Are you being like an educator the whole time though? Like I don't know when that
No,
starts.
not at all. I didn't. On my spiritual journey, I changed. Like I became a 9 to 5 guy, and so it was
Mm.
really tough for me to settle into something, that was satisfying all around. And oddly enough, because most people at the age I was don't settle on this as a career, but I became an arborist. For those that don't
Can you
know, it's a
describe
fucking
what an
tree
art?
climber.
Wait,
Yeah,
what?
man, we're the guys that fucking strap on all the gear and we climb trees, and we cut trees down that start at the top, come all the way down. We're the crazy loons, man. We're the guys that we get in the bucket trucks and climb. Well, I never went around many hydro lines, but we do. You climb up a tree sitting in between two houses that's 110 feet high. Take all the branches down and fucking cut the tree down in pieces while strapped to the tree.
What?
Yeah,
That's like a real.
yeah, man.
And you're an
It's a real
arborist.
career.
So it's an arborist because I figured it
Yep.
was tree because arbor. Arborist is
Yep.
a dude who does finagling up. So you're a professional tree climb cutter,
Yeah.
tree climber slash tree
Professional
cutter.
tree arborist. Yeah. So we climb trees, everything from, dead wood hanging over houses from a storm to, trees down on power lines to full trees down on houses to simple things like spring cleanups and, tree
Hold up,
dies. So you got to
y'all
climb
are
up
like the
and
people that they call to deal with trees when they fuck up the power lines.
the power company calls us right away. When the whole city block of Toronto goes down, you get a fucking phone call at 4 in the morning that says, "Hey man, strap on, we're going to work."
Yo, shout out all the arborists. Just shout y'all
Honestly,
out.
shout out to all my arborist brothers and sisters because here's a tidbit for you, man. It's in the top 10 most dangerous jobs in the fucking world.
I didn't even know.
275 people die every year in Canada from arborist related accidents.
And it's such
So
a
shout out to
pivotally,
all my brothers and sisters, man.
and like there's a lot that is basically we need specialized tree cutters in this regard. Because like, well, A, trees sometimes need to get removed, and B, trees sometimes get removed in ways we weren't expecting. Like, yo,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if y'all remember when NDG got its microburst, and I guarantee you a lot of arborists are the people who fucking dealt with that situation because it was just tree Armageddon.
It can get scary. I mean, I was called into a lot of high risk situations. Generally, most guys don't start an arborist career in their 30s, especially their late 30s. It's a dangerous ass job, and it takes a lot of skill. I consider myself to be skilled in math, skilled in science, and I love, like, absolutely love physics. General physics and basic physics absolutely excites me. So tree climbing, once you're in the tree, there's so much science and math and physics of where this is going to fall on how debating on what angle you cut this, and is it going to hit this on the way down, and when it hits there, is it going to bounce onto something that's going to cause there's a lot of shit that goes into being an arborist.
Hold up. So
I
you
found
have to
this.
safely cut the tree so as to leverage the laws of basic physics and not
Yes,
fuck up people's property and shit.
brother, I work downtown in downtown Toronto. There's a neighborhood called Leaside.
What?
Every house is worth at least a minimum of 1 point something. And I know some of my tree boys are watching. I know you are. So shout out that this ain't no bullshit. And we'd go to these houses, multi-million-dollar houses, and there'd be these fucking 100-year-old fucking oak trees, that are completely, like, picture the house. And this tree is just fucking completely over top of it. And there's a crack in a limb that's 100 and fucking 14 inches in diameter. And they're like, yo, you got to get up there and get that down without fucking hitting the house. I'm sorry, what? And when I started, I was just a guy on the ground throwing brush into a fucking chipper. It was a job. And I'm watching these guys in the air, and I'm like, man, not only are you risking your life, which is so exhilarating, such an adrenaline rush. Two, the math and science you guys are putting into this absolutely fucking fascinates me. And I'm like, and three, like, I couldn't think of anything more exciting to fill that adrenaline void I was missing in my life from running around on the streets, all that excitement all the time, right? This whole journey of becoming very peaceful and at one with myself, and studying Buddhism. And now I've got this job in nature, and I'm looking up and I'm looking at these guys who are so free and peaceful up there doing their thing. And I'm like, that's where I want to be, man. That's it. So I worked real fucking hard and
How do
became a
you
climber.
how do you become an arborist? Like, yo, do you go to school? Do you go? Is it a trade? Like, how do you do
There's
this?
two ways. There's two ways. You go to Fleming College and you take 2 years of, like, forestry, and become, like, you learn all the practical fucking bookwork of it. You learn tree species and fucking all this shit and the science and biology of trees. Or you get a fucking job at a tree company as a groundsman, chipping brush. And then next thing you know, you're working in a bucket on top of the bucket truck. It goes up 65 feet. So you're working on trees that you can reach from the side of the road in a bucket. And if you're fucking crazy and loon enough, you decide that the bucket doesn't go high enough for you. So I'm going to strap on 2 pieces of fucking fabric, throw a fucking rope up into a tree, attach that to those 2 pieces of fabric, strap on a fucking 40 fucking pound chainsaw. I'm going to fucking, pack on a couple saws and a few more ropes and enough gear to weigh me down. And I'm going to fucking hike my ass up that fucking tree 110 feet. Then when I'm up there, I'm going to set pulleys and rig systems up. And I'm going to tie each little piece of the fucking tree, every 6 foot, maybe even less, 4 foot piece of fucking length of tree. I'm going to tie off with a rope, and I'm going to cut it gently. Then I'm going to shake it a bit. I'm going to guide it into the rope and let the rope bring it down safely through my pulley system to take the weight off. So my guy on the ground can now safely lower a 400 fucking log by himself.
I have never
That's some shit, bro.
had anybody make like such a trade endeavor sound so fucking hard but geeky in an
Yeah.
exhilarating way where it's like sometimes there's this stigma that work like that necessarily doesn't necessarily get the intelligence praise it deserves, but you put me in that tree and I'm telling you something. I'm breaking somebody's shit and somebody suing somebody over my dumbass pulley system not pulleying very well as I fall out the damn tree and shit.
In 5 years, I damaged one tail light on a car that cost me 900 out of my pocket. I damaged one patio stone that cost me 275 out of my own pocket.
That's rough.
And I damaged two chainsaws because I didn't have them tied in properly, and they fucking just fell. They didn't do anything but break the chainsaws, but that's the only damage I really caused in all them years. God bless, right? But the other thing too, like when you're thinking all that through, and you're thinking, is this log too heavy for the pulleys I have set? Can my guy on the ground handle that weight? Is it actually going to swing and rotate on that 45 to make sure it goes in the right direction? But all that time, you got to be thinking too, is the part of the tree that your rope is tied into, is that safe? Is that holding? Is your knot that you fucking tied, is that going to hold while you're fucking reaching out, putting your 200 pounds on this one knot while you got your leg lifted to reach that extra fucking inch? Is everything going to hold, or am I going to plummet to my 110 fucking foot depth? Right. And you're up there and you're thinking all that. It's all running through your head. And it's like, what I do, bro, is put the earphones in, slap on some old school jazz or some classical music, smoke a big monster fucking fatty, and just let it all work itself. And that was my life, bro, every day for 5 years.
I just have to say, Trev, I had no idea what to expect, and this has been an amazing and astounding experience so far. I am
No, thank you.
flabbergasted by A, your ability to tell a story, and B, how fucking nifty you can make this shit sound. Like, a lot of people would have just been like, bro, you climb the tree, you strap in, you set up the thing. No, you're like, bro, let me break this down. You need to know how fucking cool this is. And I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, it is that cool. I am legit going to watch arborists cutting down trees on YouTube after this. Maybe not like
Oh,
immediately
you'll love
after
it.
this. But now I'm just, and I know my girlfriend has already said, I like this shit. So she's in for me watching videos with people in trees. Cause, yo,
Do
trees are
yourself a
cool.
favor. Don't watch arborist bloopers or arborist mistakes.
Nah, I want to watch that.
You gotta think, man, a mistake in an arborist career is generally life altering, if not life fatal. I'll tell you, only twice I escaped some very close calls. I was very early in my career. My trainer at the time, that we now know, was terrified of heights, and that's why he used to put guys like me up in the tree early because he didn't have to go up. But it was raining, and I had a handsaw. I couldn't get my fucking chainsaw to start. And handsaws in the arborist industry are like bone cutting saws, man. They'll rip right through your arm in one cut, like no fucking problem. And my dumbass was up there in the rain, and I've got my one hand on the fucking saw, and I'm fucking going through a limb about this thick, which is just stupid. Doesn't physically make the physics behind it are dumb. But I'm fucking going. And of course, because it's wet, the saw bound up in the wood. And so my brilliant idea was to put both my hands on the fucking handle and try to start working it this way. Well, when the saw bound up again, my bottom hand came across the fucking blade.
Oh,
You should be wearing proper gloves, but I'm one of those hero tough guys. So I was actually wearing motorcycle gloves with cut off fingers. So this just ran through the palm of my hand with the gloves on. And I mean, I was cut bad. So I came down, I looked at the trainer, and in that company that I worked for, if you get injured at all, you get a suspension. And I was at that time in my life where I couldn't afford a suspension. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't have this. I'm struggling. I'm trying so hard to become a full blown arborist and surpass three guys, who put 5 years in, and I'm trying to do what they're doing in 5 months. So it's like, no, fuck it. Duct tape that shit. I'm going up to finish the tree, you know? And I did. I finished the tree. I healed over a couple of days. It was no big deal. The second time, the closest call I had, I was working with my younger brother on a private job, and we were up. We were on a property. I was climbing a tree. It had a lot of limbs. I'm going to try and use something for a visual here if I can. I'm going to use my guys. These aren't dirty Q-tips. I'm dabbing. These are my dab Q-tips. So picture the tree being like a tree, and this is me on the tree. I'm halfway up, and I cut the tree so it's supposed to fall and tumble like this, and I would still be at right where I cut. I'm about 40 feet in the air, and so I cut it, and it got stuck. The canopy was stuck in the rest of the tree. My brother on the ground starts pulling the rope, and the tree starts fucking shaking, and like you're rocking back. This is a nightmare for an arborist. To be shaking in a tree is scary shit. So I tell him to stop, and I stick my chainsaw up where I've already cut the wedge. This is a high, extremely high risk move. It's so frowned upon. I should have just came down out of the tree and figured something else out. But I managed to cut it. And what happened was where I cut the tree, it fell to the ground like this. Instead of falling and toppling, the butt of the tree came down and hit the ground. So the canopy was still, it was like a whole nother fucking tree. And of course, it started falling towards me. And I'm now stuck on the side of this tree in my spurs with my fucking chainsaw in my hand, watching this tree just fucking coming at me, man. And I'm like, this is how I go. This will be it. And I'm thinking to myself, and they say everything happens in slow motion. Well, this actually is happening in legit real time slow motion, because nothing in fucking trees happens fast. Like it's literally just taking its time. The wind's blowing it. I've got like 15 seconds watching this come, and I'm like, I don't even really know what the fuck I'm supposed to do right now. This just sucks. Yep. My brother's like, do something. I'm like, don't know what to do, bro. So I fucking, at the very last second, I fucking like, because you got your spurs on the outside of the tree, you got your chainsaw, right? So you're kind of hugging the tree. So at the last second, I pulled my fucking one spur out, and I put my feet so close together, which is also a no-no because you can spike your own ankle, which is common. So I'm already like worried about that. So I put my 2 feet together, and I fucking pull my arms in, and I hold on to my strap instead of the tree, which is a fucking huge no-no, because now if that tree coming at me rips my strap in half, I'm fucking going backwards 40 feet. I'm fucking dead. It's like I'm literally doing every tree no all at once. Like the chances of me not getting majorly hurt here is very slim. And I know all this, and I've already fucking calculated every bit of it, because we're at about 25 seconds now, and the tree still hasn't fucking hit. I know bullshit, man. It's a legit story. So as it gets close and it starts hitting the stump, I can see now where I'm actually going to get fucking hit. And I'm like, I'm in good position. And there's just this one branch coming at me. And if I don't do nothing, it's going to catch me right here, somewhere between my neck and my shoulder. Best case, I break my collarbone. Worst case, I'm fucking dead. So I fucking throw my hand up at the last second to try to get the branch to run down the side of my body instead of a direct impact. And it actually fucking works. The tree it was a lot of pressure on my body. I thought for sure I'd crack a rib. And the tree, and it just rolled down the fucking side of me and just hit the fucking ground. And they say, your heart, the adrenaline and all that shit. Dude, I've been in some gangster situations, man, and my heart was not going as fast as it was right there. Like it was fucking crazy. And your first instinct, of course, is to check yourself. Are you okay? your adrenaline's rushing so much that, you know, they teach you, you know, in the safety course, you know, your fucking adrenaline's going so bad, you won't even know if you broke something. So I start looking up down my body. My brother is literally freaking out from the ground. I said, I'm okay. I'm coming down. I'm coming down. Part of my life I didn't tell you, I've cut my hand off. Not once, but twice.
What?
Twice I've, yeah, before I was even an arborist. So before I even did this dangerous job, I've had my hand cut off twice, not by violence either, twice. And here's the real kick, bro. You ready for this shit?
Yes.
Four years apart on the exact same fucking day this has happened to me. So I actually have no feeling in this pinky finger here at all.
Hold on, like your
So
whole hand got cut off?
yeah, I can show you pictures, show your viewers, but it's pretty gross.
No,
Now
let's
you
not
can
do
see
that.
really well. I have one that comes right across
I'm just like,
here,
and
and
they
then it
attached it
finishes
again?
up here. It didn't come all the way off. Um, I'll tell you how. The first time was a beer bottle. I reached into a case and there was a fucking broken bottle in there, and it went right through the middle of my hand here, and I pulled it out, and my thumb didn't come out with the fucking hand. And so they went and they put that one back on. Dude, I could go on for like 3 hours just on that story alone. That was crazy. I had to go to 5 different hospitals to get my fucking thumb sewn back on because they kept kicking me out of every fucking hospital I went into. And you know what? If our sailor is watching, that's my brother. He was there. He witnessed all of this that fucking happened. Anyway, so I'm being an arborist. Let's go back to the arborist story before you get too lost. So I know,
What
man,
the
you wonder why they
shit?
call me elder, bro? This
Bro, I
is
love
why.
it. This is
So I'm
one of my
coming
favorite
down
interviews, 100%.
I'm coming down the tree and I'm looking at everything on myself. My adrenaline's going. And my brother's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And the worst, right? The customer is now coming out of the house and they're fucking losing it. Oh my God, son, are you? And they're old. Son, are you okay? And I'm like trying to calm them down. I'm like, Doug, get the customers, fucking put them back in the house. So I come down the fucking tree and I get halfway down and I look and I'm wearing gloves, like full finger gloves. And my fucking finger, I don't want to say my finger because I think it's my glove, is literally pointing in a 90-degree angle from the
Woo.
palm of my fucking hand, bro. Like just straight up and down like this. I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm thinking to myself, I'd feel that. I know I have no feeling in my finger, so I'd feel that. And I'm thinking, no, my finger must have just slipped out of my glove, right? I'm thinking all this while I'm trying to climb down. So I do the dumb thing and I lean over and I squeeze the finger of the glove to see if my fucking finger's actually in it. And yeah, my finger's in there. And I'm like, oh. And I'm thinking, is it severed from my whole hand or is it just fucking twisted? So I get down, I get the customers away, and my brother's like, "Are you okay, bro? Really?" And I'm like, "I don't think this is fucking."
Oh, you muted yourself in the middle of that.
Fingers just pointing downward. And my brother's like, "Oh fuck," and I'm like, "Yeah, hospital, let's go." And those are my two closest calls as being an arborist. It wasn't long after that I hung up my fucking spurs and my chainsaw permanently and said, "Yep, no more of that shit for me." Which brings me to what you really want to know: when I became a healer
No, I wanted to know all
and
of
an
it.
educator.
But like,
Oh well,
I didn't
I'll
know
tell
I
you the
wanted
story
to
about
know
me cutting
about the
my hand
arborist
off.
thing. I mean, I'm curious about all of it, but like, I didn't know I wanted to know about the arborist thing because I didn't really know that was a thing until you started talking about it. And now I'm like pro arborist people. You just got me on board with the community. I don't know. I bet you there's an arborist TikTok that's actually like worth following somewhere out there. And then you get like ingratiated into this cool community of like from the trees or whatever.
Dude, I can send you videos for days, man. I kept all the videos. You'd be up in a tree making a cut. You'd be doing selfies and shit, going live. You're like, "Hey, what's up? Just up here swinging at 110 feet. Thought you'd all want to have a fucking quick look at my view." Shit like that. People be like, "You fucking put your phone down, ah!" So
Bro,
I'm sure there's some wild videos out there for sure to watch.
I'm so into it. But yeah, we can talk about your hand getting cut off later. But I do think it's more interesting to talk about how you ended up becoming an educator.
It's it was fluke, really. I always have been considered, you know, someone who likes to inspire and teach. Uh, people because I talked about all my life experiences. You know, in a room full of people, I'm the first one to talk about. You know, I'll hear somebody talk about something that relates to my past, and I'm so quick to be like, "Yo, man, you know, this is how it really is, or this is what it was really like." And so when I hung up my spurs, it all was like another transitioning point in my life that I didn't realize it would be at the time. But looking back, it's crazy how it all changed. I was I was going to a territory dispensary. It was the only one that was open. There were no other ones. This was the very first one. This was like 2017 or even before 2016. Can't remember now. But I was shopping at this store, and I was that guy. You know, I was already a weed connoisseur. So I'd go into the store and I'd stand back and I'd watch other customers and what they were buying, right? And just listening to what they were saying. And I'd buy a gram of everything that was in the store. And I'd go and I'd home and I'd smoke it all. And I'd go back to the store every 3 days. And while I was in the store, I'd start giving my advice to other customers that were in the store. I'd be like, "Oh man, listen, you don't want to smoke that." Or I'd be like, "Hey, you want to smoke this?" So after going back and forth for like a month, because all the workers are on the territory and I started to get to know them, I started bringing Tim Hortons to them every day. So like I was going out to the res my boy Willie. Sorry for watching. I know Willie educated me. It's not polite to call it a res. So all my friends on the territory, I started feeling bad for them because there's no Tim Hortons out there. So I was coming to buy weed every day for every other day and getting to know all these employees. So I started bringing coffee every day, every time I go out to the res. I just said it again. Every time I go out to the territory.
Willie and everyone else, we learn him, but we acknowledge, and it's something to work on.
Thanks. So I go out to the territory and I go with like 12 Tim Hortons coffees, right? Which cost like $14. Wasn't like huge thing, and I'd start getting to know the employees really, really well. So I bring out like the coffees that they wanted. And then they were throwing me all these free pre-rolls and I'd get all this swag. And then winter came. And I was like, I think I was just turning 40 or I was about to turn 40. And I was like, I don't want to do another winter outside as an arborist. It's fucking cold up there at 110 feet when it's minus 40 degrees outside. All of that shit I was talking about and making those decisions and those on the fly moves and stuff, it's really hard to do those when it's sub-zero weather. Right? And as your body gets older, for those of my viewers that are older, they already know. For my younger viewers, it is not a fucking stereotype. It's true. You hit a certain age and your body tells you that you're an asshole and that it doesn't want to do certain things anymore. Well, climbing trees in sub 40 degree weather is one of those things your body's going to tell you you don't want to do anymore. So I showed up at the dispensary and I said, "Hey man," and he said, "What?" I said, and it was all, of course, indigenous people, right? Because back then it was pre-legalization.
Yo, what's up to the cat?
They were working under the indigenous treaty.
Yeah,
the cat?
No, it's behind you. The cat like popped out, and it's a little guest appearance on cam behind you in the window. It's really cute.
Oh shit! I didn't even know he was up there. Fats, what's up, dude? It's because my windows aren't normally open, but I'm smoke showing in here right now, so my cat's trying to get some fresh air. Probably. Fats is This is my cat, man. He's a typical ginger. You got to see this guy, man. I've brought him on my show before. Fats is probably the biggest, fattest, but healthiest cat you'll ever see. Holy fuck! So Fats is 29 pounds, maybe more. We haven't weighed him in.
Shit. Holy smokeronies!
We haven't weighed him in a year or two. So this is the big fat guy. We've done a lot of cat rescues over the years, and four little gingers we kept. One didn't turn out to stay as a small ginger. He turned out to be the fattest bastard. So his actual name is Dexter, but we call him the Fat Man. It's the only thing he actually responds to. And he loves making guest appearances, but not tonight, buddy. Get out of here. So I went into the dispensary one day and I said, "Man, you know what? Like, I know it's all indigenous people that work here. Can I work in the basement? I'll just pack the pre-pack the weed. I need 3 months out of the cold before I go back to climbing trees." They hemmed and hawed over it because they knew about my colorful past. And they thought, well, you know what? He's a great guy. He brings a lot of coffee. So why not give him a shot in the basement? If he turns out to be shit, we'll just get rid of him. No harm, no foul. I know to this day, and I know my mentor, he watches this show a lot. He watches my show, so I'm sure he's tuning in. My mentor will tell you straight that the only reason I got that job was from the amount of coffee and Tim Hortons that I brought every day for like 6 months prior to asking for a job. They were like, this guy's going to bring coffee every single day to work. Let's give him a job. I went to, and I went started
Well, that
packing.
is possibly one of the best life lessons on value propositions I've ever fucking heard. How a little
Listen, I'll tell you right now, my protege, who I've been training for the last couple of years, they watch my shows too. And they'll tell you straight when they came to apply at the store that I work at or was working at, they started bringing coffee every single day. And I was like, did you tear a fucking page out of my book, man? And they were like, you taught me some of the best lessons ever. And one of them was to bring coffee everywhere you go. In Canada, you cannot go wrong with bringing a fucking Tim Hortons with you. You goddamn well know somebody is going to be like, you brought me a free Timmy's and you just made a new fucking best friend somewhere. Take note. People watching this show, take note. Public service announcement, life
Yo,
experience
it's the
lesson.
biggest facts. And even if you want to go real dark with it on a laws of power tip, it indebts people to you. I'll have to jump on a subtle psychological thing for like, I'm not like stopper, but yo, what is the problem with positive manipulation? Like we all act like the
Nothing.
word is terrible, but I'm like, nah.
Good
I
for
want
you.
to make your day better, motherfucker. Deal with it. Like that's a
Yeah,
good
I love
time.
that concept. I
It's
love
like
that
totally
concept.
fucking fine to me. It's when you take those same skill sets and try to do bad things with them that it becomes complicated. But yeah, go give gifts to people and then watch how they want to be nice to you. Like
Yes,
like
for sure. And I say too though, like I do this a lot. I never talk about the stuff I do for people on camera. I know
that's
that
a
every supporter and every fucking fan I have that's been following me for the last couple of years knows there's some things I've done that they have wanted to go public and they're like, people need to see what you do. And I'm like, no, man, I don't want that kind of praise. I don't do shit like that to get some kind of fucking
mm,
recognition. And a lot of people, there's a real good argument to that too. They say, but you might inspire somebody to do the same shit. And it's like,
it's a fifty
yeah, you
fifty.
do the same thing as it's a 50-50. And you know how
And I know
fucking
it
society is today.
because like other sides of it. So I tried to like at work, day job, create an issue. We have a PDF editor, so I'm like, yo, we should like partner with a tree planting company. Like this synergy is just beautiful. But like, it really is big business. And then you start talking to people about charity contributions, and it's like there's a flip side to it where for everybody that's going to praise you for bragging about it, a lot more people are going to judge you for it. Now, if you're like $1 billion wealthy, fine, like you should do it, but you're like not supposed to talk about it. I don't know why it is, but it's like a real norm. I'm a social media guy. Somebody does charity, I'm like, bro, put that on blast. But then it's like, nah, reputationally speaking, it could actually fuck you, which is weird because you're
Exactly.
doing good things. This isn't like my opinion one way or another. Honestly, I'm so conflicted.
No.
I just assessed the situation and I saw a lot of powerful people won't fuck with you if you brag like that. A lot of middle class people, a lot of basically it's like 50-50.
Yep.
And it's like
Right down the middle, man.
at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself why you do it. And like I do weird, kind, charitable things here and there that nobody's heard of. Sometimes I'll do something and I don't even tell Bonnie. It's like whatever. Nobody cares. Why am I doing it, right? I'm more of that mindset inherently. I like to like be a buffoon and you don't need to know that shit. I don't know why I'm like that, and I don't know what the right choice is, but I relate heavy to this, and I just validate it as like a real fucking thing that's 50-50, you know? But telling people about tactics on how they can positively create better opportunities in their life is fair game, I think, even if it happens to be buying coffee over 6 months, which is pretty fucking kind.
I think positive reinforcement is super important these days. But I also think that the gray area in between, like you said, like the 50-50. we all know how society is today. 10 years ago, if you posted a video of fucking helping somebody out, what on whatever level, you get some positive fucking reactions to that. Fast forward 10 years where social media has become, you know, on the wrong side can be extremely fucking poisonous and badly influential. And, a guy like myself goes out and I do something like that, go out and help the homeless and feed a meal or,
Yeah.
do some of the things I've done. If I'd done those on camera, are people going to say, oh, look at Trev, he's doing something fucking awesome? Or are people going to say, look at this fucking piece of shit, out there doing shit for likes and fucking hearts and views? And that's the world that we live in now. It's hard to try to inspire people to do good things without having society judge you on the exact opposite of what you're trying to do. Which is why, again, when you turn to what I do now, it makes things so much easier.
On the other hand, if you do enough good things, it ends up being like time later, people be pointing out that picture Trev didn't know got taken at that thing. And then people put it together and then elevate you. And that will also happen. So it's like you don't actually have to tell people about the things. Other people will tell the people about the things on your behalf when it's sincere. That's my belief, at least. I don't know if I'm 100% right. But I know that like Eminem might not brag about what he does, but he does a whole lot, and other people defend him for it because he does a whole lot that I don't know about because he doesn't talk about it. So it's super nifty. I thought a lot about Eminem on that one subject too. Anyway, that's a whole other rabbit hole. So you end up getting this job at the dispensary.
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, so I worked in the basement for, I think it was a week and a half. I was supposed to be down there for 3 months because the way that it was if you weren't indigenous, you weren't actually covered by the treaty. Even though you were on territory, it was still illegal for me to actually hand somebody cannabis and them hand me money. It's still just a fucking drug deal, right? Unless I'm native, I'm not covered by the treaty. So what happened was the dispensary became so ridiculously busy. And they only had like 4 staff upstairs that worked the floor. They had like 6 or 8 staff that were in the basement. But a lot of the staff in the basement had chosen to work in the basement. They didn't interact well, maybe customer service wise, or maybe they didn't know enough about cannabis to be on the floor, whatever reason. So every now and then the floor would call and they'd say, we need a body up here bad. And I just wouldn't hesitate. I was like, this is my opportunity. I don't want to be down here packing weed. I want to be up talking to people. And I'd go upstairs and I'd start helping the public. And it was really, I hope my mentor is watching, because in the beginning, when I was helping the public, you should have heard me talk. It was quite an embarrassment. I had an F-bomb, in every other word in sentences, trying to talk to customers. Oh, this weed's a shit, bro. Wait till you try this. It'll blow your fucking head off. You're going to be stoked. And people really loved my energy, but there was certainly some clientele that were like, wow, man, this guy's just a bit too much. Mm. And so my mentor, who at the time was was our floor manager, he was looking over me going, Trevor is fantastic with people. We just need to mold him a little bit more for this kind of environment. And so they sat me down and they were like, okay, man, this is, what do you want to do with your career? Like if you're going to work here and work on the floor and work with our public, we need to refine you a little bit, man. Like people are coming in to see you, and then they hear you talk and it's a whole different thing. And so right away we shaved a few words out of my vocabulary, like, and not just swear words. Like I didn't use the word weed anymore. I didn't use marijuana. It was onto cannabis and flour, and it wasn't wax and butter. It was concentrates and shatter and live resin. My mentor took a couple days to really define my vocab so that I would be a better salesman on the floor. My customer service was great, and my knowledge for cannabis, for basic cannabis, was inspiring, right? And so they took that and they rolled with it. And now the one thing that we had that was different was we had a cannabis testing lab on site that was viewable to the public. And we had this one girl, and she worked in there, and she was the only one that knew how to run the lab equipment. She was the only one trained and educated to do it. And she got work to the bone. And just one day I was just kind of looking at it and I was like, that looks like a really cool job. And so I asked her to train me in the lab equipment and microscopes and, molds, mites, impurities, and starting to get into the biology of cannabis and start breaking it down to terpenes and what terpenes should have certain effects. And this was something that me and her like just kind of did together.
Yeah.
The store hadn't really embarked on quite that in depth of things yet. And of course, my mentor, who's, if you think I love science, this guy's, oof, he's the science guy. And so, he was running the store now. He was the whole store manager, but he would love coming into the lab to see what we had, what we were learning and what was new and what was going on. And so they'd taken me off the floor, sales floor as full time, and they'd allowed me to be a full time lab technician. But as I started studying more about the fundamentals of cannabis and the breakdowns of it, I started learning so much about the medicinal benefits. And it was literally blowing my mind. The stuff that I was reading and the research that was available to me because of where I was working. The building that I worked in was well known as one of Canada's best top medicinal houses, on territory. I think they were ranked number one for like a year, right? And having that as your backing, there it opened so many doors. I was on the phone with guys from Israel, and we were on the phone with guys from Colorado, and we were just learning from each other. And then I started studying treatments and ailments. The house that I worked at, we call them houses. The dispensary that I worked at had a membership program. So when you came in to do business, you had to fill out a genuine general information, your name. You can put a fake name. We didn't give a shit, right? What city you were reigning in from for demographics, your real birth date, and anything that you may have been coming in medicinally that you were trying to get some help with, whether it was arthritis, ADHD, fucking anxiety, depression. I mean, you name it. It was on these papers. MS, Parkinson's, fucking. And then I hit the first one that was cancer. And I was like, wow. I'm like, you're combating cancer. And they were like, yeah. And I was like, this is, for me, it really hits you hard that you're working behind the counter of a retail store, but somebody's literally just come to you for advice on how to save their life. And it was like, oh, I don't have enough information to be able to help you with that. But it was like an inspiration. Like right there, I needed to know. Right, I'd heard rumors there was a product that was known to combat cancer. For me, I was still sitting on the stigmatic side that said, sounds too good to be true. It probably fucking is. There's no way you can tell me I can fucking beat cancer with weed. Was kind of what was rattling inside my brain. And so I started looking into it, and I was quickly, I stumbled across what we now know as RSO, or Rick Simpson oil. And all what really astonished me was how much information was readily available on all types of the internet. With so much screening and censorship we see, and how they try to bury so many real truths, you'd think that if cancer was as easy to cure as growing a plant in my backyard, soaking it in alcohol for a few days, boiling it, and then consuming it, and that's going to cure my cancer? Right? Let that rattle around in modern day.
Well,
It just sounds way too good to be true.
I think it's because like people act like there isn't weed research. I read this fascinating book that described why, like, a history of weed in America, and like to this day, it's not like you can just go research weed at U.S. institutions the way that you can research weed anywhere else in the world. So I believe it's still a federal one-class drug. I believe there's still one university in the entire country that's authorized to do what's considered legitimate research by the CDC and all them. So basically, the only country that allegedly counts at a global scale is not having any independent research, any kind of research. There's no research on weed. So the rest of the world is proving shit left, right, and center, but the States. So, I mean, like, I know it's changed in the last little bit and it's loosening up and whatever, but we're talking until like 2015, no problem. and that would be, I think, why people don't care, because the U.S. didn't put out anything.
It's crazy when you think about how much the US leads like on that level on influence, because all of I've worked with, and I'm very proud to say this, you can get into the details if you want.
I do.
Um, but I've worked with teams of doctors, like conference calls with doctors from Colorado, BC, fucking uh, Israel, and England, and all of. I'm sitting on this panel with all these fucking doctors, and they're all talking, and they're like, "Well, what do you think?" And I'm like, "I think that I've been sitting in a fucking medicinal dispensary for 3 years studying my ass off, and I'm sitting in a room full of recognized and esteemed doctors, and I'm too fucking afraid to say a goddamn word." That's what I'm thinking, right? I I'll never stake claim to producing the products that I teach about, but through reading, research, and hands-on with the customer base that we had at the store, I think when I left that store, they had 56 or close to 60,000 registered customers, members. Now you got to think, with every member, they filled out a membership card.
So you know
With
that
every
that kind of
card,
data is
they filled out
crazy.
what they were suffering from.
What the fuck?
You have no idea how raw that data was that we collected over a 2.5 year period through customer base. So you're Stephan, and you're suffering from arthritis and depression and anxiety, and you start coming to that store and you use your membership card on every purchase. Your purchase now ties into our database that's now collecting what you've been using to combat those things. Now, if my fucking system sees that you purchase the same thing over and over, I now, the system now collects that data and says product A is clearly successful for ailment X with patient BCA. Now do that on a
Bruh.
60,000 fucking client
You just
scale
described data.
and have that fucking laptop right in front of me with a testing lab and unlimited resources, and just the will and wanting to know everything that was in front of me. There was nothing I didn't want to know. There was no part that I was like, no, that's not important. No,
Mm.
that's not. No, 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 no. And I studied this shit through hands-on and through reading the data and the research that we were collecting. But where it became pivotal for my treatment, I was very successful at it. And this is where a lot of people, this is where my haters come. And this part of my career is where the haters start. Up until now, everything that I've done has just been a blessing. But people will sometimes mistake my knowledge for arrogance
Love it.
or cockiness.
I feel that.
And it's so hard as a teacher and an educator and a healer to find a balance between sharing your knowledge, re-educating those who think they're already knowledge, educating those that have zero knowledge at all, and trying to get people to recognize that without sounding cocky or arrogant or conceited, that you literally were part of the breaking movement of cancer treatment for what we know today. But who are you? Well, I'm fucking Trev Jones, the ex-con, old criminal, bud tender, pot connoisseur, right? So like the credibility, is certainly difficult, or it was at the time, and especially it's even more difficult to not come across conceited
Bro,
or
I relate
arrogant
heavy, man.
when you're trying to teach this, and not just teach it to, in my case, not in my newest position, but in my case over the years, to my coworkers. Even more, you'd be surprised, the hardest ones to teach are your loved ones. And then of course complete strangers through videos and workshops and classrooms and all the work that I've done over the years, and still try to look like you're and remain that humble without portraying that kind of arrogance and conceitedness. It's certainly where people come and say, he thinks he fucking knows everything. No, I never claim to know everything. Do I claim to know an awful fucking lot? Yeah, but I fucking studied real hard. And I mean, we'll get to the most emotional part of this interview is coming for sure. I'll tell you guys straight up ahead of a time. I will break down in tears twice in this interview because there has never been a time I've been able to talk about these two experiences and been able to hold my emotion back where I didn't cry.
Yo,
So
your
through
story is
becoming a
so.
treatment and ailment expert, as they were starting to call me very quickly, people were coming to see me from all over the province and like would wait and say, I know I'm good. I need to wait for Trev. I was sent here from someone to see Trev. Trev, 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 Trev. And the whole time I'm trying not to develop an ego. But something deep inside of me is thinking, fuck, you really did it, man. You made it. Inside, you're thinking, you really have become successful in what it is that you've set out to do. You know, and now it's about teaching. So while all this was going on, I stumbled across this Rick Simpson treatment. And it was something we offered out of the store. Rick Simpson oil, in the short and gist of it, in layman terms, is a full spectrum extract, and it's a high dose of THC and all full cannabinoids, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the most layman terms I can put for anybody on the planet. High concentrated dosages of THC will eradicate cancer cells on a molecular level. That is fucking science. It's not conspiracy. It's not some bullshit. It's fucking fact. It's just, and you can look that up. You can research it. You can look at fucking hundreds of testimonials, or I can just tell you something. And so through the Rick Simpson, thanks, man. I got my stagehand serving me dinner while I'm still in an interview because he knows I have another show coming up right after this one. He's trying to feed me. I love this guy. So I found out that Rick Simpson oil on its own, the Rick Simpson formulation, through the research that I'd collected myself, was primitive. It was, for lack of better terms, it was beginner stuff. We are now, I'm talking now about past legalization. Legalization did a couple things for us. It didn't just open the fucking doors for us to smoke weed on the fucking street openly and not get arrested. I mean, amen for that, right? But what it also did was open a fucking gazillion doors and opportunities for Silicon Valley and researchers and doctors to come forward and not have to fucking study, you know, in closed doors in fear of being arrested or prosecuted. We can now come public and go share every fucking thing that we knew with everybody everywhere. And then we had fucking geeks and I call you geeks because you're my boys. We had geeks in Silicon Valley starting to produce fucking equipment and technology that enabled us to take what we already knew and make it fucking science and make it factual and make it undisputable, right? And so through all this, we found out the same. It was the same with the Rick Simpson treatment. The Rick Simpson treatment on its own is, yes, it can be successful, but it wasn't successful enough for me. I wasn't. I knew that we could improve it, and that was a very cocky and bold statement for two fucking potheads sitting in a fucking lab in a territory in Alderville who don't have any doctoral or science or medical backgrounds at all. We were just enthusiasts and activists that had research and data available to us and products, endless fucking products that we could look into and research. All in all, it ended with Rick Simpson oil by itself wasn't enough. People, cancer patients and clients that we had were still dying. And that wasn't working. That wasn't sitting for me. And I was like, no, man, and there's more to this. I know there's more. And I looked into the formulations, and with the help of, like, I don't care if she's watching, I don't care if anybody tells her that I said this, with the help of this batshit crazy loon tune woman who lives on the territory, she's a registered herbologist. She's a lot of things, but she's smart with herbs. And she created, well, I don't know if she created or she recreated something called a Hockney formulation. And this is an all natural herb formulation, and it had two fucking miracle things that went on with it. One, it helps expunge toxins out of the body at an exceptional rate. When you start eradicating cancer cells, toxins start to build up in the body, dead cancer cells. If you don't get them out fast enough, fuck, you can lose a patient from going toxic faster than you could lose them from cancer, right? So she had this formulation that helped expunge those toxins at a great rate. And it had a second benefit. When a cell is attacked by cancer, what can be left behind, and a lot of the cells that are affected in the body are damaged, right? And Western science will put you on a medication to help protect those damaged cells for the rest of your life. The Hockney formulation will actually help repair the human cell back to normal and make it healthy. This was like fucking imperative part of a treatment, right? And I was like, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out, for all the things we knew about CBD. Okay, for those of you that don't know, the two best benefits of CBD, or is it boosts your natural immune system and boosts your natural healing system. So, I mean, it doesn't take a doctor to think that if we're combating cancer in a body, why the fuck would we not be pounding it with CBD to keep the natural immune system and natural healing system boosted to the max while we put our bodies through this tremendous war, right? And so now I've got three components. And then I met this dietitian one day, and she said, you know, one of the key factors to combating cancer is to starve it. And I was like, well, what do you mean? You know, and she took this whole time, like she took a couple of weeks to educate me on like how cancer actually feeds on, you know, processed foods and sugars and all this different stuff. And there's actually a diet that's on the internet, easy to find. It's called the Gerson diet. And if you were to follow this diet to the letter, if you had cancer and you didn't do any cannabis or CBD or anything else, and you just followed this Gerson diet by itself, you have a chance to just to beat cancer on its own. Now, I'm not telling anybody anything on how to treat your cancer. Always consult your doctor, your physician. Fucking, I'm not the be all and end all. I'm just telling you what I know and what I learned. And the final factor was this Rick Simpson oil, right? So it broke down to Rick Simpson oil will eradicate cancer cells. CBD oil will help boost your natural immune system and natural healing system. The Hockney formulation will remove the dead cancer cells from your system and repair any damage that was left behind. And the fucking Gerson diet will starve any cancer cells that we didn't get with the fucking THC. And I sat there for a few minutes, and it was like, it all just came together. And it was like, and I was like, these four things together would make for like an incredible cancer treatment. But like, how do you go to somebody who says, I'm combating cancer, and you're like, well, I'm fucking nobody, but I want you to risk your life on what I think I know. And fucking sorry if it doesn't work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, can you imagine being in that position? You're sitting in your fucking desk. You finally think that you have put all the fucking pieces together. You think you fucking finally have it all fucking figured out. You've talked to Rick Simpson himself. You talked to doctors in Israel. You've got a team of fucking, you know, people like left, right, center. You've got it all fucking, you know, you've got it. But who the fuck do you go to and say, I need you to risk your life for me on nothing but a hypothesis of what I think is going to fucking work. And I'll tell you, bro, you ready for the first set? Here they come. I was well known for coming into work on my days off. I loved going into work, catching up on the tests, because on top of all this, I had to test every single cannabis product that came through the store. I had to go through my testing machine and my microscope. So while I'm inspecting 40 something products a day and giving them the stamp of approval to go out on the floor and be sold. What's that? What are you drinking? I don't know what that means, but yes, yes, and only if I can have a small glass of it just to see what you're drinking. I love my stage hands.
Shout out stage
So I
agent
was,
guy.
you know, so I came in on my day off, which was not unknown. They always gave me the slow days off. And so, you know, it was one of these weird times where there was no customers in the store. And when there were no customers in the store, a lot of the staff would take that chance. They'd run out back, they'd rip a bong, right? They'd go downstairs, grab your phone, fucking hit them, whatever, right? The door chime rings and, you know, someone runs up. So I was downstairs and I came upstairs. I didn't even hear the door chime. Shout out, bro. Thank you. I didn't even hear the door chime. He knows I'm about to have tears, so he brought me a fucking swath of his rosé.
Hmm.
Um, and I came up the stairs, and there was this guy coming in the door, and I was like, "Oh, hey, man, how you doing? Can I help you?" And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I don't really know what to do. I don't really know why I'm here. I just, you know, my friend said I should come here." And I was like, "Cool, man." I'm like, "I'm Trev. You know, what can I do for you?" And he's like, "Well, I have cancer." And now this was never a big shock, right? I've probably dealt with about 7 cancer patients or clients from this time already. And we were in the cancer treatment, you know, process at that time. And he said, I have I have 60 days to live. They gave me 60 days to live.
Oof.
And I said, well, I said, what treatments are you on? And he said, none. He said, they've just sent me home, call it a day. And it blew me away because he looked really healthy and he looked in good spirits. And it was fucking weird to me. And I said, well, I said, what do you know about cannabis, man? And he said, well, you know, I know a bit, but not a lot. I think it'll help these things. And I said, have you ever heard of Rick Simpson oil? And he said, my friend had said something to me, but I didn't pay attention. And I said, you got half an hour? And he was like, dumb question kind of thing, you know? And so I told him everything. I had a spiel that I have for Rick Simpson treatment when I'm introducing people to what the product is and how it works and the treatment program and, you know, everything that's available. And I said, the thing is, man, it's 60 grams over 90 days because you're supposed to build up. For those that don't know, you start your Rick Simpson treatment by consuming a very small amount, and that's to help build up your tolerance level because it's such a high concentrate. So you consume a bit and you're fucking high, right? And a lot of people that come to you with cancer treatment aren't necessarily cannabis users. So
Mm.
it's like eating a 800 milligram fucking edible at once, you know, not recommended for the lightweight, you know? So you tell them to kind of take a quarter of the 800 milligram fucking edible and build their way up. So that over the course of like the first 5 weeks, you're consuming very small amounts and getting up to where you have to consume an entire fucking gram every single day. Excuse me 1 second. If you're gonna take a shit right beside me, my cat, while I'm doing an interview, that's just
That's
bad
hilarious.
manners.
That's
Bad
amazing.
fucking manners.
No
Come
one
on,
was
out of the room.
expecting that. I wasn't expecting that. No one was expecting the cat to take a shit and not be a part of this.
No, fucking bastard. So he said, well, I'll just take a whole gram a day, 60 grams, 60 days. And I said, buddy, you're gonna be fucking high as a kite. Like you're not even gonna, you will be non-functional. Like you're gonna wake up, eat a gram, wake up, eat a gram for 60 fucking days. And he was like, yep, how much does it cost? Slammed down his fucking money, took everything I had to offer. I always give my RSO customers my phone number, my private number, and I tell them call me 24/7, man. Because like people get really high off it, and then they want to call the ambulance and shit. Like that was the 2019 number one call of 911 was people calling thinking they were dying from overeating edibles. So the last thing I want is a cancer patient having a quote unquote overdose of cannabis in the middle of the night and calling a fucking ambulance because then they might take them there and the doctor could convince them not to take the RSO anymore and undo everything we're doing. So I give them my phone number. Ask my wife, man. My wife, I used to get phone calls at fucking 2:30, 3, 5, fucking 7:30, and she'd know. It's like RSO patient, it's fine. So I gave him all this, my phone number, everything, and he left. And I was waiting to hear from him like every fucking day, man. I was like, call me, like in the back of my head, I'm thinking, call me, bro, call me, bro, call me, bro.
And like 30 days went by, and even though I was keeping track of all of these other patients' data and clients' data, if I don't see you, I don't have anything to write down. So I have no reason to open your file, right? So I was embarrassed at the time to say I'd forgotten about him. Like, it was just, the store was so busy, things were moving so quick. I hadn't been able to stop and think about it. And I remember 67 days after I met him, I was at work. He came walking in, and I didn't know what to think. I was fucking. So I walked over. He was clutching a piece of paper, and he slammed it down so hard on the glass, dude. I thought he was going through the fucking glass display, and I couldn't get a read off him, man. And I'm a people guy, I couldn't read him. I couldn't tell if he was about to slap me and tell me everything was a waste of time. But he looked me dead in my eyes, man, and he said, "You saved my life." And I said, "What?" And he said, "I'm cancer free." And I was like I was just no words. And he started crying, and I couldn't help it. I started crying. He said, I'm cancer free. You saved my life. I'm alive because of you." And he had his fucking doctor scores, his test scores. And they made him go back 3 times over 4 days because they didn't believe it. Because he went from such a high PSA score that he was going to drop dead in 60 days or less to 67 days later, he was not only alive, he was fucking cancer free. So he was like, we had a moment, man. Like, fuck, did we ever have a moment? We balled it out. He's 54. He was 54. He'd be 58 today. He's still alive. He's 58 today. And he'd come into the store once a week and tell him, just wouldn't buy fuck all, man. Just to tell me he was still here and everything was great. And we did a live interview with him. And I wasn't even like I'd never done an interview before in my life. I'd never even done a video. My store wanted to interview him, but he said he would only do the interview if it was me that did the interview. And I blew it, bro. Knowing where we are today and what we both do and how we both interview people, I'm so glad I can't find that interview, because it was fucking choppy. It was so bad. But he used to check in with me right up until I left the store. I lost all his information when I left that store. But we went on from there. Like, it was, word spread so fast, that this had happened, and people were coming from all over to get the knowledge and the education and the treatment. And my dad, who just recently passed, like very recently, he was dead against cannabis, like fucking dead against it. He thought the craziest thing I ever did was shut my fucking 6-digit-a-year tree company to fucking work retail behind a counter. That's how my dad looked at it. And then when you tossed in the cannabis factor, like, he would never say he was disappointed in my decision, but you can tell he was. And I remember one day we were like, if you know, I'll say their name out loud. I don't give a fuck, man. We made retribution. We fucking reconciled with each other. It's the medicine wheel in Alderville that I'm talking about. And back in the day, they would have like fucking 500 customers a day. The place was jammed from sun up to sundown. And I used to get into these modes where I'd start talking to, an elderly couple, and it would end up that there'd be half a room of people would be listening to me teach. I'd look like one of those fucking guys at a homeowner show, standing there talking with a little mic in his fucking ear, talking to the crowd like I'm trying to sell you some this and that. And I remember, and this was a regular thing, and I know a lot of my viewers are watching, so like anybody can vouch. But I remember one day I was like, I'd been working there 2 years almost, and I really could work a room, and I really did love to teach and educate all these people, and then help them with their individual need. And I remember just coming to the end of something, and I looked across the room, and there was my dad, like standing in a dispensary. And I was first like completely, no, it's not my dad. It's just someone who looks like my dad. But it was my dad. And so he said he was trying to call me from outside. He wanted me to have a smoke with him and tell me something, whatever the fuck it was. He said he waited so long that he decided to come in to find me. He said he was standing there for like, I think he said like 45 fucking minutes. He said he just sat there and he watched. And he watched me teach, and he watched me educate. And he said the way that people were just listening and watching how people, there's a product I use that I can fix your arthritis in like 7 to 8 minutes. And so if I'm fixing your arthritis, I'll sit there and talk to you for 7 to 8 minutes while I put the product on.
Right.
And so there's been a lot of tears in the lobby of like people. Like, I have a story of a lady. Her husband was filling out the paperwork, and I looked over at her, and her hand was like this, and her husband was there for some sleep aid. And I said to her, I said, "Hey, do you mind if I ask what's up with your hand?" And she said, "Oh, I suffer from such severe arthritis that my hand has been locked like this for 9 years." And I said, 9 years? And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Is it painful?" And she said, "Some days." And I said, would you mind?" And she said, so I took her hand and I rubbed some lotion into her hand, front and back. And I said to her, "Do you go have a seat?" I said, "I'm going to finish up with your husband and I'll come back and check on you in about 10 minutes. And I wasn't even finished with the husband. It was like 6 minutes later, 7 minutes later. And she came up and she was bawling her face off. And I said, "Oh my God, honey." I said, "What's wrong?" And she was doing this with her hands. And she looked me in my face and she said, "Because of you, I'm going to go home and I'm going to feed myself my own dinner for the first time in 9 years." And it was like, oh, fuck, waterworks from hell, right? So it's like, it was these little moments of working at the retail counter and having such a monumental impact on some people's lives just from sharing a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of product knowledge. I knew that's what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. It was like, I don't care about the money. I don't do it for the money. I do it to literally, for the corniest cliche it could ever sound, I literally do what I do to try to save some lives. I've lost so many family members to cancer. It's like, if I could have, if censorship wasn't what it was, and I had the fucking knowledge I had 15 years ago today, you know what I'm saying? How many of my family members would have not died? I saved a guy's life who was going to die in 60 days. 67 days later, he's cancer free. So what the fuck could I have done for all those people that I lost to cancer? And it enrages me when I think about that. But it drives me and motivates me to make sure that any chance I can get to educate and teach about treatments and ailments and what cannabis and cannabis plants can do for you, I'll step on that camera, I'll get on that platform, I'll grab a mic, I'll sit on the counter for 5 extra hours and not get paid. If it means that I can help somebody have a better, healthier, happier lifestyle, or in some cases, the most extreme cases, if I can save somebody's life, think about it like this, friend. It would all of a sudden mean that the first 29 years of my life that I was running around being a fucking asshole, all of a sudden that wasn't so meaningless.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Brought some kind of balance, and it made some kind of completion to me. And some people say you'll go your entire life studying Buddhism and you'll never find enlightenment. And I got to tell you, bro, I found it. I found it not when the first person told me that I saved their life, not even when the second, but when it became a trend. It was so pivotal. It was just like, this is it. This is what you need to do. This is what you're gonna do. I don't make a lot of money doing any of the things I do. Everybody knows I do a lot of things. I work at a counter. I have the shows, which, have minor sponsorships. I had a distribution company for a while, legit one. Don't get all excited, and I give all of that shit up all of the time, just to go work behind the counter, which is normally my least, amount of income. Guys, make no mistake, selling legal weed is fun as hell. Is it lucrative for the bud tender? No. Government bud tenders make minimum fucking wage. Make no mistake. Territory bud tenders don't do too bad. But at the end of the day, these are not buying house kind of wages. Fuck, I rent, man. I'm 40 and change and I fucking rent. You want to pretend that I'm in a multi-billion-dollar industry for the money? 5 years later, sharing cancer research, you want to think I'm in it for the money when I rent a fucking shitty house in Coburg? No, man, I am completely compassionate driven. I do this because if it improves, if it saves one, if it educates one person, if it just gets it out there, that's worth more than anything, right? And it doesn't hurt for I never hurt for lack of shit to smoke, but that's why you wanted to know this whole interview. One of the things that you said you wanted to know more than anything else is why and what drives me to teach and how I became a teacher and an educator, and that's it. There's some cool life parts of my life that we left out, and I appreciate that. Some things I probably shouldn't talk about on camera.
Big facts.
But that is really basically how I went from my very first charge was, using a weapon on a fellow classmate, and then in turn, fast forward 30 something years later, and I'm out here just spreading peace, love, and trying to get the good word of the good education and help people and just try to guide people on the right path and make sure that people don't have to go through all the bullshit and shit I went through to try to find their calling or their success. I wasted so many years, a lot of wasted years, that looking back, no matter what I do, I will never make those things right inside myself. A lot of people tell me that, I don't have anything to make up for, but nobody gets to make that call except me. And there's just some things, no matter how much good we do, we just never make up for it. So I'll throw that out there. I'll throw that out there in the universe, hoping one day I wake up, hoping that karma's been lifted. But, with the feeling of true enlightenment, and everybody can call enlightenment whatever they want. Your interpretation of enlightenment can be completely up to you. That's the beauty of studying Buddhism. Perception is everything. And finding and feeling and believing that I have found true enlightenment through healing and education and teaching will be what continue to drive me until somebody literally makes me stop.
Man, you was one of those real ones. Like, that was a lot. I didn't have to say anything for a very long and lengthy period of time. Because what could I have contributed there anyway? There's nothing to say. You're just doing your thing. There were a few things I was curious about, and I'm 100% still curious about them. But it didn't feel right. That was like blessed as fuck. So that's a lot. You just kind of like, you literally almost had me crying at one point. It was definitely like the arthritis lady with the hands. I'm like, shit, I can picture that video on YouTube and everything. Like, it's serious shit. I was like, man, like I encounter you through Willie Scandals, right? And y'all are doing some show shit and some weed shit, and nobody explains a fucking thing, right? Because that's the world, right? You just show up and you fucking have no context, and you Google people, and there's no context, and so you don't fucking understand anything. It's not like context a lot. So we talk and whatnot, and let's be real. I'm on my, if you're interviewing me, like, fuck that. I'm talking over you shit. That's my moves for interviews, right? Like, guys. Because in my head, it's like, check it. You can come do this shit. Look at that. I do know how to keep my mouth shut. But, like, I felt like this is... Well, I'm an interviewer, right? Like, if I'm an interviewer and I'm on your interview show, let's see how few questions I can force you to not ask me or whatever. It's a game for me. Like I'm just want it to be like a thing. I got told recently I came off kind of cocky and arrogant on Next Man's show, and I'm like, fair enough. It's not my fault. I know things. You know,
I smoke weed and I know things.
bro.
It's
I
a
like
it can be a
read.
curse. It can be a blessing. It's
It's
all
like you
about
read
perspective,
books, you
bro.
learn shit, you talk to this whole interview thing. Like I don't know where the fuck is taking me. Like and with you, I didn't even know what you were about. Really, I'm just like, well, the man's interviewed me. I should probably like hit him up and do the thing. That feels like I'm not so much into like share for share and shit, but like interview for interview seems like the kind of exchange I could fuck with because like we both really do
Right?
benefit off of that arrangement. It's not like listen for listen or whatever. It's no like shit. My platform. That's like I want to make friends with the guys that are able to say I can also interview you. Like those are cool people to know, in my opinion. Yo, if I'm sitting here talking to this whole plethora and you're over there doing, it's like, bro, collectively interviewers are like modern day journalists doing that kind of like shit
For
that
real.
isn't really getting done. And I don't want to call myself a journalist. That's a real profession that motherfuckers go to school for. I'm trying to steal and copy what their profession is and do the bootleg YouTube's Twitch version of it.
Oh man, sign me the fuck up, bro.
Like I am
if
to
you like what you
journalism.
see, follow here.
Like I feel like I am to journalism what Philip DeFranco is to the fucking professional news. That's what it is, but people fucks with it.
I fucking love it. That's off to this guy right here, yo.
But like on the real though, you're so fascinating. I literally heard you say nothing in either of the times we talked on cam, and I've watched you a few times, and you're like, well, let's be real, Trev. You kind of a character on that show, for real, at King's Court. You play this role,
Yeah.
so then you come in here and drop motivational for the kids on me. I'm like, motherfuckers, like, blessed, though. I'm sitting there, like, taking notes in my brain. Like, I didn't know about this Smith fucking weed oil mixed with the... And I'm like, you was literally just kind of proving that sometimes people in certain spheres get so, like... tunnel vision in their various specialist perspectives that it takes somebody to just toss to the people. You know, my day job is really comparable. I collect stories and anecdotes and I turn them into data so that corporate people can understand it better, right? So that's a lot of what I do. So it's kind of comparable to that role that you played where you captured a lot of stories and then you were able to in turn take what is actually happening in the world and give that back to people and meet them in that middle. Yo, this valuable role, like such a valuable role in life, for real. Like, I don't know how much I can even say. Like, just thanks, man. Like if I understand correctly, you bypassed the tycoon that is America in the science field of weed and became part of a pivotal team of people that post legalization leveraged your research and data to push technology and things further to create a cycle of positive growth in weed research that is ultimately going to save lives. And you are smack dead in the middle of that revolution of weed that kind of got tied into Canadian legalization.
Yeah, you pretty much. Wow. I don't think I can sum that up any better. Yeah, you nailed it there, bro.
Wow. Like y'all know what that's like. This makes you kind of like a modern day hero and shit. Like a hero. Not like a fake hero.
You know,
because you followed it up with, and bro, I don't even make money on this shit for real. I get weed, but I don't even make money. I just do it for the love of it. Like, bro, you're the guy that they make movies out of.
I mean, when you look at my career for the last 5 years, like ever since I stepped onto the retail market of cannabis, make no mistake, motherfuckers, I've been selling weed for 3.5 decades, just not legally, right? For the last 5 fucking years, I've seen the retail side and the wholesale side, which opened not just that, it was like business, marketing, fucking customer base, demographics. And if you're paying attention to any of this shit, you know, that's how you become successful. If you want to be successful in your environment, pay the fuck attention. Pay attention to what's going on around you, right?
It's big time knowledge nuggets.
Oh man, I can't be any more real about that. Like, I would still just be a bud tender or packing in the basement if I didn't absorb what was going on around me, right? And it's true, I don't do this for the money. And the real reason I do it is just to educate, just to help, just to
man, if half the people could have the knowledge of treatment and ailments through natural herbs and cannabis, if I could share half the fucking knowledge I have with my friends, like the people I work with, Anna Washburn, fucking God, man, that girl is a pivotal breaking fucking. Okay, you ready for the second set of tears?
Yeah.
Through the RSO treatment program, we stuck to that regimen, right? It was this. This is what we knew. This is what we knew. What we didn't know, I lost a client after like it was like 5 days. They came to me on fucking Thursday and they died on Tuesday. I never had anything happen so fast. It was, and the husband called me. You know, they left behind some kids, and we kept losing like to certain cancer. And I was chalking it up to like we weren't getting to it fast enough, you know, like it was progressed. The problem with cannabis cancer treatment is like without help from a doctor, without a doctor pushing their patient to come see you, most of the time the patient comes and the most of the time we hear is there's nothing left to do. They've sent me home. Western science is done. They've given up. I'm palliative. You know, and now being, again, is this cocky or is this confident? When I look a patient in the face and I say, what if I told you they're wrong? And then I tell them Steve McGinnis's story. 60 days, 60 grams, 67 days cancer free. And you're telling me they gave you 6 months to live, you had 60 fucking days. Let's do the work. Let's put it in. Right? But we were losing people still, even though everything was going right. And Anna Washburn, fuck man, my boy Zach's aunt, she had I believe it was her daughter, I want to say, or her niece. It's been a few years, so it's hard to remember. She had cervical cancer, which was it's hormonal cancer. Hormonal cancer, the treatment is completely fucking different. We had to adjust and alter same products, just different treatment regimen. And we never would have known this if it wasn't for Anna Washburn and her continued like doors shut in her face. And she was like, no, you ain't shutting that door. My fucking foot's coming through it. You know, like people tried to cut her off from shit. And she was like, no, hell no. You know, they tried to side, like keep her quiet and like, nope. You know what I mean? And like together we were like, she had so much fucking knowledge to share and like no way to share it. Right. And I was like a megaphone for her. She could tell me shit. And I was just like, fucking, you know, and thanks to Anna, we stopped losing people the way we were. We had no explanation. We were doing everything right. You know, the fucking diet, the fucking treatment, we had it all, but they were just still dying. And Anna fucking made the breakthrough through like 24-hour fucking reading and looking and searching. And Anna made a breakthrough for treating hormonal cancers different than regular hormonal cancers. So fuck, big fucking shout out to her. She watches my show sometimes, so I hope she's watching because that woman, I mean, she's like me. Except she's even more humble than me because she'd never stand on a camera. You know, she did everything she does so compassionately driven. She creates infused toffee bites that are for continued treatment post after cancer treatment. And she donates all of this shit. She's fucking amazing. Huge shout out. Okay, that's it. I'm done with the tears. Twice in 3 hours? Jeez.
Yeah, seriously.
But we've been able to help so many people and save so many people since then. And what we were able to do, I don't work directly with the Kelly's Green Lounge anymore,
But for the period I was with Kelly's Green Lounge, I mean, even the education that we were able to get out through that platform, and the educators that came together and educated on that platform, you know, the concept was fucking brilliant. You know, the delivery in the end maybe, but the concept of having all these educators together in one group was like everything I was doing 3 years ago. You know, when I was on conference calls and calling fucking other countries at 3 a.m. because that was the time difference, to try to get someone on the phone that could tell me what happened. But you know what I'm saying? And so then we were able to create more platforms where educators were able to come together, researchers, educators, doctors, and we leveled the playing field, you know. So, and from there, now where we are today, you know, and we'll never stop. We'll just keep going and continue to teach. We'll continue to educate, you know, and fucking research. You know, that's how we'll keep progressing.
All right, so Willie wants to drop a Willie bomb on you.
Oh, you motherfucker! I didn't see. I can't. I just want the people to know. I can't see who's
chatting
here watching. I can't see chatting. I can't see anything. But if I'd known Willie was here, I should have known this was fucking coming. Fuck you, Willie. All right, go.
If Elder could smoke dope in a hot tub bare ass with any celebrity, who would it be? Definitely
with any
any celebrity.
If I could smoke weed with any celebrity in a hot tub,
bare ass bare ass.
Oh, bare ass naked. Oh fuck. All right, hold on. See, here's the thing, man.
It's a different question now.
It ain't to me because I'm so chill and natural, like with my body. I just did a calendar recently. So I mean, like, I'm so comfortable. I don't give a shit about people, what they look like naked. A human body's a human body. So I mean, for me, it's going to be more like, who's going to be chill enough with me to sit naked and not let that interfere with our fucking session,
bro?
Right?
Anytime,
because
Trev. Anytime.
I don't know. I'm still thinking, man. I'm stalling, bro.
But yo, I would love to know which celebrity that you would do it. But now you've made me curious about who the fuck would get naked with you in a hot tub in a non-weird way. That is such a fascinating way to twist this question. Willie, your bomb was great.
I would have to go with, and it's only because I've smoked dope with him before, and it was fucking chill as fuck. No, okay, no, I've done that already. I'm gonna go with.
I can't even wait.
Fuck, man. It'd have to be Willie Nelson, bro, for two reasons. One, that motherfucker is so wrinkly and old that you'd never notice if he was fucking naked or not. Anyways, he looked the same.
Right.
And two, like, I just talked for 2.5 hours. I would love to sit and talk with Willie Nelson about what that motherfucker has seen in the 100-something fucking years. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like there's something to doing it naked too, because then there's no reason to lie when you're not wearing clothes. Yo,
that's what I'm saying. Like, Willie be one of those guys that'd be the same thing. Like, Willie wouldn't give a fuck if you were naked. Willie wouldn't give a fuck if he was naked. Willie would just give a fuck of how good the fucking weed was that I brought. And anybody that sat on my table and smoked knows that Willie probably, I challenged some of the greatest pot smokers on Twitter and said, you need to come fucking look. I said, I know I'm a small bit nobody. I said, I do a little night show. I said, but as far as I know, I hold the fucking record for no one ever being able to outsmoke me. I called on Seth Rogen. I called on fucking all the Trailer Park Boys. I called on all, like, directly on their fucking Twitters. And I was like, come with it, man. Nah, none of them want to step up.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'd take you on any day of the week that I can go to your place legally post-COVID. Any day.
Post-COVID, it's you, me, Ross, and Willie Scandals are going head-to-head, all in a full-day, full-blown smoke-off competition.
I don't hate this.
It was going to be the whole May 29th concept. I'm so sad, guys, that this event has got to be canceled for now, but, like, it just don't make sense to do it. But when we say canceled, I mean fucking postponed.
Yeah.
We invited, like, all kinds of music artists and stand-up comedians and educators and influencers and legal companies, black market companies, legacy companies. Like, we just invited anybody in the entire motherfucking world that wanted to come and be social. The second those restrictions were up, I rented a stage. I rented fucking barriers to go around my property. We rented the sound equipment. We got like 3 sponsors to come in and do it. We got some. I got a major hip hop legend that was gonna come. Y'all know who I'm fucking talking about. We got some 2 upcoming starts that were gonna come, and then we had the Kings that were gonna be there. So both of them were gonna perform, and like it was gonna be a fucking rock of a good time. We were gonna host the very first social event of 2021, because the original lockdown, would have come up by May 1st or some shit, which would have given us the 4 weeks to get it all together. But now they extended the fucking lockdown, and it's not up till May 21st. So like to try to put that event together in 8 days and pretend that they're not going to put us into another fucking lockdown.
Nah, it's
spend all this fucking money, put it all together. It's like,
even
fuck it, man. We might as well wait.
To that end, for me, it's like, yo, my province still has curfew. Lockdown. Curfew is still like a real thing. Like, yo, I'm like, yo, I can't even be seen at that shit because, yo, I'm fucking in Quebec. So even if I went, I have to hide from cameras and shit type of thing because it's just a weird fucking time. That's where I'm at with it, which is, so it's like when post-COVID's done, bro, anytime, man. And it's simple fucking things, like once the
I'm putting this out there right now for all of your fans, followers, and watchers, all my fans, followers, and watchers, and wherever this fucking interview ends up on whatever motherfucking platform, let it be known that Trev, elder of Cannabis Jones, invited all y'all motherfuckers up to my place, my property, cannabis to be provided. No fucking need to bring anything. I got 80-something fucking bongs in this house. I got 50-something fucking dab rigs, 2 e-nails, enough rolling papers and cannabis to kill a small fucking army. And you know what else I got that ain't nobody else got?
No.
I got a motherfucking O'Doyle.
What the fuck's an
right?
O'Doyle?
O'Doyle's my stagehand, bro. He comes walking by every now and then. I try to give him props and credit.
Oh, shit. Okay, that's fair. I like that a lot.
A lot of my shit wouldn't happen without O'Doyle. Man.
Shout out O'Doyle, for real. I got a Chris Crum.
Helps me out.
Chris Crum's my
O'Doyle. Yeah? I don't know how we made like these. We turned our people on Elder Smoke Shack into characters. Like my wife is Vanna Jess, and she won't come on camera, but you'll see her arm come out on camera all the time, like pass me my fucking mug and shit like that. So she became Vanna Jess. I swear my guests look more forward to the Vanna fucking bombs than they do for me. But then once O'Doyle joined our team, I was trying to get his attention one day. Like O'Doyle smokes a lot of fucking weed. And he was on the couch and he's watching on his laptop, and like I totally think he has everything under control, and like shit starts to go Ari. So I'm trying to get his attention. Like you saw me do the whole thing with the mouth and shit. Like I'm good at that shit, but I couldn't get his fucking attention. So out of nowhere, I'm just like, oh no! And I clapped twice, and it just became the thing. So now whenever O'Doyle goes by or O'Doyle's name gets mentioned, you got to do the double clap. It's like O'Doyle, right?
Understood. But when it's organic like that, it's blessed. Yo, I got 2 questions for you I've been meaning to ask because they came from the comments. One of them's from the homeboy Lindell, and he wants to know, being that you grew up in the early 80s, what was your favorite action figure and superhero while calling you an interesting person?
Dude, that's a fucking sick question. My favorite fucking action hero was always a toss-up between Van Damme, Seagal, and Schwarzenegger. Van Damme, because and I'm not gonna lie, dude, I tried to fucking do the splits on chairs at least 6 fucking times in my childhood, right? Thinking that I would somehow miraculously be able to fucking do this. So he's not my favorite for making me try to do that and rip my groin. Seagal for sure, because he made anybody be able to be a badass. You know what I mean? He was fat and overweight with a ponytail, and he just like turned badasses into fucking nothing.
That's hilarious.
But I guess the all-time best, come on, it's fucking Schwarzenegger. He was the fucking man. And action figure, dude, if you went into my house when I was a kid, we had a 4-bedroom back split. I'll make it fast, I promise. My parents' room, my brother's room, and my room. Across the fucking hall was the spare room, which was the toy room. I don't want to. My dad worked at Hydro. My mom worked 3 fucking jobs. She split her ass fucking opening her own cake decorating store. My father was gone on swing shift. We didn't have it easy. My parents worked hard to make sure that, we had toys. We weren't spoiled, but this is going to sound like it.
So when you go over to the spare room, you open it up. The
I
room
love
was
the premise.
completely divided. On one side of the room was and I'm not joking, man. If you name it, bro, who's ever watching, the guy that asked, if you name it, not only will I tell you I had it, I'll describe it to a fucking T, and I can probably tell you how much it cost me back when I was 7 years old. We had Star Wars on one side of the room. The Star Wars was huge when we were kids, and G.I. Joe on the other. Not the old school G.I. Joe that were fucking 12 inches. Take it down a notch, bro. I'm not that fucking old. Just the little 6-inch guys that had the
I didn't
swivel
even think
arms
about
and
these
shit.
12-inch ones. What 12-inch G.I. Joes?
Yo, bro, Google G.I. Joe fucking
I'm gonna do that
19,
after.
probably 70 something.
Okay.
They used to be like these huge fucking G.I. Joe action
actually
figures.
pretty
They were
nice.
like this big. Yeah, if you got one, yo, bro, you're sitting on a fortune.
So yo, back in the earlier part, we was talking video games, and you're like being part of the whole video game era of all of them. What's your favorite console of all time? Like, what is your favorite go-to video gaming scenario?
If you'd have asked me this fucking 2 months ago, hands fucking down, it would have been Xbox. I love my Xbox. I mean, if you go retro, it's the Intellivision, the game I talked about in the beginning, only because it's the only thing I can play fucking Tron Deadly Disc on. But I've had every console my entire life. I've never missed out one. I've never skipped one. I've always spent every dollar I have on my video games. So I've never, like, I feel like I have a non-biased, purely educated answer on that. My favorite gaming system of all time, hands down, is an Oculus. And if
Yeah,
y'all don't know what
buddy.
an Oculus is, you all need to
Yo,
get one. You all spend fucking
you
$1,000
have
on
an
a PlayStation
Oculus?
5. Fucking right, I do, brother.
Yo, Trev, you want to do some VR shit?
Oh, bro, I've been talking about. Okay, two things I want to say now. My man here did an interview on my show, and he said something that it has inspired me, and it changed the direction of where my career was going next. So I want to hit that off with you real quick. I want to say thank you to you. It was your inspirational talk, man, about when you were talking about how people, when we share an industry, people that share the same space in an industry. So in my case, fellow influencers and fellow educators, I don't consider myself so much an entertainer, even though I put on that show once a week for the last fucking year and a half of my life. My main focus is teaching and educating. But everybody knows, even in teaching and educating in the influencer world, if you're trying to get paid on this block, that fucking, it's a tough industry to be in. Because I'm not trying to get paid, I don't really give a fuck. Struggling for the time and the airtime and the viewers and all the followers and all. I don't give a fuck about that. I reach the people that need to be reached, right? People that say, go follow Trev. They're not saying follow Trev because he's a funny fucker. They're not saying follow Trev because he's got bars. Don't go follow Trev because, he does stand-up comedy. Go check Trev out because he's going to teach you how to fucking cure whatever the fuck it is that you have. We might have some laughs along the way, but that's why people come to follow me, So what you said about people in the same industry competing with each other for followers, that hit home with me, man. Like, you have no idea. It was like, because I look at our Instagrams and our Twitches and our Facebooks, and I look how the world is judged by likes. Like, let's be honest, man. We get paid up here on camera by how many viewers and likes and subscriptions we get, because then that's when the sponsorship money comes and blah, 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 all the way down. So the competition can get fucking real. Competing for airtime and followers can get fucking real. This guy underneath, I don't know where you all look, where I come up on the screen, but he's underneath me. This guy,
side of you.
this guy said the most brilliant fucking thing I've ever heard. Why are we working against each other and competing when we should be working together? The way you described, like throwing Spotify's on fucking repeat for your boys while you're fucking sleeping and shit, I've been doing that ever since. It was the fucking most simplistic, smartest fucking thing I've ever heard. But you took it to a level that I wanted to take my level to, my industry to. We all need to work together. I had a show that was on at the same time as Willie's.
And I was like, okay, I'm no longer putting that show on that day of the week at that time. Fuck it. That's Willie's time. That's Willie's slot. Right? Why do I want to make my followers try to pick where they need to be at 9 p.m. on a fucking Friday? That's dumb, especially since me and Willie are fucking friends.
Yeah.
That's so counterproductive to both of our fucking careers. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I swear I
So
try
my new
hard
inspiration,
not to do Friday night shit, or at least be done by like 8:30 latest.
well, my new idea, my new project, and what I'll be working on, and I'm throwing it right out there. And if anybody steals my idea, go fuck your face, because I'll have my own people anyway. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You know, all of us entertainers and educators and influencers and comedians and all of us that all kind of follow in the same circle and you know, with the same followers and all this. You know, that group that I broke free from a couple of weeks ago, again, the concept was on point. So what I'm doing, what I'm working on right now is bringing all of my fellow educators and all my fellow influencers and all my fellow music guys, my Willies, my Rosses, my Stephans, my fucking, all of my friends that have shows and that we work and we put the real work in, not the bullshit work, the real work in. And I want to bring us all together on like one Twitch channel. So instead of having people try to subscribe to you for $2.99 a month, and these are fucking hypothetical numbers. I don't know shit about this shit yet. Willie's teaching me everything. But like, yeah, shout out Willie, thank you. But like, instead of trying to get people to subscribe to me for $2.99 to watch Elders once a week, or fucking Willie's, you know, the Willie show, right, once a week, or this show once a week, or that show once a week, or this show once a week. Yo, why don't we put everything on one fucking title? You know, and charge them $24.99 to see all of our shit, right? And then we all work together and schedule our fucking shows so we're not overlapping anybody. And then all of a sudden, people are going to be like, oh, so I don't have to fucking have 17 different charges coming off my credit card for like fucking to watch all my favorite fucking friends. I want to support everybody, but I can't.
There's a whole lot of ways to make that viable.
You got it?
Yeah, no, for real, there's a lot of...
Yeah. So like...
That's a big topic, but there's a lot of ways to do that. The YouTubers are already doing this shit. If you just look at Curiosity Stream and shit, like Curiosity Stream and Nebula partner together, and for like what, $14.99 or whatever it is, fuck, you can get all this fucking content from the YouTubers that used to make good shit on YouTube.
Yeah, see, I need to be in that club, bro. That's the club I'm trying to be in. I didn't see. I'm always late to the game. I'm old.
No,
bro.
but it's like you're not actually though. Like honestly, this is still inception stage. But let's say you take it to a Altspace VR, and like instead of focusing on like that, because yo, it's I don't know.
VR's next thing. If anybody hasn't figured this out yet, you heard it here. You heard it from him first. You heard it from me next. I'm telling you, VR is the next fucking thing.
Yo, bro, do you have an Altspace?
Get ready for that. Hey?
Do you have an Altspace VR account?
No, I have an OnlyFans. Don't tell my wife.
No, but
no, I'm kidding. No, I don't even know what that means yet.
So
bro.
it's like I don't know how to put it. You create an avatar and there's a bunch of spaces. So you throw events. Like Microsoft owns this thing, so it's not like Microsoft's not going bankrupt anytime soon is what I mean. So like it's not a terrible place to fuck around with. And they're going to invest in it. So they threw their big tech conference of the year in Altspace VR so that people can attend. Now, what's really cool about Altspace, where it helps bridge some gaps, is that like you don't need a VR headset to participate. You can have your little avatar and kind of get a shittier version of it using your mouse to look around. But you can do it from like a computer. So if you got the VR, it's litty because your whole like hands and shit like move and crap. So it's fucking
right.
dope. But then anyone can like participate. Like it's more like a more interactive. Like Zoom is like okay. I'm not like satisfied with Zoom. Like this is okay, but like what can we do to make it more interactive and interesting and engaging? Like I can't really see the audience. I see a chat. Now imagine you could like look out and you see the audience with the avatars and chat bubbles above their heads and shit. Like yo, it has to get better than this if this is the virtual world, because this is not like the best. So I'm just, I don't know. I'm going to go and fuck around with it more. But Altspace VR is like this, like, there's spaces and events, and you can, like, watch YouTube movies. You can literally, in this shit, organize, like, group YouTube sessions or movie watchings and whatnot, because it just exists, and it's not, like, YouTube and all that. So there's no, like, real copyright concerns. It's all private parties in virtual spaces. So there's, like, a lot of potential.
I gotta get deeper into that for sure.
That's my
For
plan
sure,
for
for sure.
like that's one of my vacation plans is to delve into that. But like, it's the
Let's
way
get
I
to
see it.
work,
It's
bro.
like Twitch, but like next level more than it's like YouTube, because live is the most important element. Like if you look in all markets, everything's going live. Like video on
Right.
demand is the place you put your post live. You know,
Yeah,
like
100%. Yeah, I mean everything's that way. I mean, I'm trying to get this. I'm actually in the works to help somebody produce a new show. And they're like, well, we don't want to do it live. We want to record it and edit it and stuff. And I'm like, trust me, man, like that's done. That's old. Like people want the live. People want to be part of the interaction. The same time that
but
part
it's
of the
even
audience interaction is part of what makes what we do with the live so
but let's go
so
like a whole
good.
other direction with that. Y'all must have heard across the way that like company after company, media conglomerates, were dying on YouTube between like 2017 and 2019. And what happened was is people realized that there's no way to make back the money on this content. They took a lot of investor money and they made all this beautiful high budget edited, but whatever. But the profit difference between the low budget produced shit and the high budget shit did not justify the increase in production value. So you're seeing it now in even things like Battle Rap with COVID. They now have a subscription app for URL, like the Battle Rap League. And it's more profitable for everybody involved to do a lot of smaller scale, at least for now. But like, and I'm just kind of talking a bit out of my ass, so don't quote me too hard on this. But like it's a lot more profitable to put a lot of low budget 12-person battles. Like what the people in the room are there for the tournament in like a basement, no crowd, no
Right.
anything. You flood the content with this. It's all pretty good content. Everybody's still doing the thing. Everybody's still watching this shit on YouTube after. But instead of worrying about high production value, high return, you kind of go the opposite route and figure out how to sustainably create low production value that has high interest and then attach a subscription model to that. And that's how you go fucking IPOs down the line. Like,
Yeah. See, you make it sound. I think that shit in my head. I don't know how to make it sound like that. I
doesn't
try to
help, man.
explain that to
Doesn't
people,
help.
and I'm
They
like,
don't understand
I'm
it
like,
either.
well,
Like, not that they don't understand, but like, I don't explain it right either. I still just hit a different market, right? And the people who get it, and they don't know if they don't. And it's hard to like fully simplify it, I think. I need to do visual things. So like we're gonna make a 24-minute project, a music album. So we're gonna use this VR app just to tell a story with avatars in this like setting for free, because it's not gonna cost money to do
yeah,
this. And then like at least if you can't picture it, you can watch that and you can be able to picture what the fuck I have in my head a little bit more. Because yo, it's pictures. How can you like prove the concepts a little bit? A little proof of concept, a little video here and there, and then like yo, you can screen grab your like OBS adventure or your Oculus Adventures via OBS. So you just like set the screen grab up, and then just need a 2K monitor and you're good. You can capture all of it, and then like things
yeah,
like that, and then people see us doing it and they're like, okay, that's more interesting, right? Like I can picture this now, which is I think the problem is that like yo, even with VR, until I used it, I was like yo, whatever. But once you play shitty VR games, they're better than like games you played your whole life.
right.
Like you're just
I
in
love
it.
my VR, man. Yeah, because you're in it, and that's it. Like, I mean, especially when you hear me talking, like, I've been playing Atari since I was 5 years old. So, like, I went
Mm.
from fucking a little triangle on the screen pushing dots to where I'm pulling a strapped gun off my back, a virtual one, and pulling my bolt out and putting my chain fed bullets in and pulling my slide back and, no recoil, get down on my knees to crouch. Anybody that thinks that that is not like the coolest part of technology and where we're advancing. And if you think that VR is only going to be about video games, well,
It's so far from it. Yo, like just
you're not in it
imagine
yet.
like yo, they're doing all this voice command shit. So evidently they're gonna be able to hear voice triggers. What I mean by a voice trigger is you rapping your fucking song, just to go back to music is easier for me. You rapping your shit. And then as you say the hook, and you can now have it where it's voice commanded. So if your DJ or whatever delays, it's not like time to like you have to be choreographed. It's when you say the words, but not all the words, just the words in this particular way. It knows make a holographic dragon appear. And like
Yeah,
that's where
that'd be
shit's
so
going.
cool.
And then
Yeah,
it'll
yeah,
get to
yeah.
a point where it's like augmented reality and virtual reality all blended together into this weird mesh where like in your room you could see. Anyway, I can picture a lot of pieces, but like how do you put this puzzle together when the people who are running the strings are the music industry, the film industry? Yo, I've actually hit up companies that do music events and they just ignore me and leave me on red and shit because like who the fuck am I? I'm not a famous anything, right? Like, so I give up on that route. I'm like, I'm not a salesperson. I need a pushier person in my life. But like,
Yo, welcome. What's up?
but you know,
I'm that guy.
nah, for real though, it's cool though to like see your passion for it and you like seeing it like that because not a lot of people do. And as more people see where it's going, it's like you create the wave. And I love your like idea of it because it's community driven. Like this doesn't work in like mass scale way. It's more like you're finding 1,000 dope people that you love, that you want to be around, than it is looking for millions of adoration. Like I don't. That's scary. But I could deal with 1,000 people in a database. I could handle remembering 1,000 people's worth of shit if I tried.
Right? See, I got on our Facebook group only has like 700 people or 600 people, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's not huge." And it's like, but I know every single one of them. You know, like everyone. I do my show here. Shit, like 40 minutes or something like that. You know, and I might only get 100 viewers, or I only might get
I wish I got
190 viewers.
I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Oh, dude, you know, my Instagram account gets 500 views a show, and it's like people are like, oh, I don't want to sponsor you. You only get 500 views, and it's like, you know what though? Those 500 views were like 500 live views. I'm interactive with that audience. I know those people. Those are my friends.
Oh, just drop the word concurrent. Just say I had 500
Concurrent.
Yeah, that's the word you're
Oh, yeah.
missing. Just say that word.
Okay.
You'll act different. If you say you have 500 concurrent viewers, you might have a different reaction than 500 views.
No. Well, again, with not these were back when I was trying to make make the videos what they were, but I say to people all the time, I would rather that small circle, that 500, that 700 Facebook group, because then I can be interactive with all 700 people on that kind of personal level. You start getting into tens to thousands to 20,000s. I see some influencers, with 44,000 viewers. How the fuck are you supposed to interact with 44,000 different fucking people and have a meaningful following? Like, to me, it's...
Well, basically, at that point, you have gated followings. That's the reality. Like, I mean, it's not what I want, but it's what I kind of like. You can't really like have your cake and eat it sometimes, right? So if you're very successful in this world, it gets to a point where it really is like people like Ismail Gadamsi, who's there on like every episode, or even this dude DJ Overflow, who inevitably we're gonna go raid. You know why him? Because he keeps coming on through and showing that love, so you kind of get that love back in that way. Or like a Willie Scandals, and as these different people appear in your life, you kind of get that core main group, and then you move them to Discord. So y'all chatting up in the Discord, it becomes almost like you create that private environment that is for the real ones, and then the public environment for those that are just because you just can't know everybody. But
fair.
So like there's ways to control the access to you, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but it's also like something that has to be thought about in the public world. Like, yo, I mean, I want to talk to everybody that hits me up, but I don't literally want to just sit there and shoot the shit about nothing all the time, Like, there's got to be like definitions to the rules of etiquette, even just across all of us. It's so weird to just know that like people hit me up and go hi, and I might not respond, and then later on, hi, hey, I'm like, bro, like, what is this? Are you a bot? Are you a human?
What's up, bot?
Like, I don't know.
Hey, have you heard? Did you get your number yet?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, right. Like, because you don't know now, and you're like, I don't want to talk to you because, and then you're like, am I being a rude asshole? But I don't know.
See, I always think too, if your interaction with me starts with hi and like nothing, like that's it, 2 letters. I mean, come on, put some work in. Give me something to work with here, Hi. Well, yeah. No, I didn't hear that I won a new trip, and my dead uncle died in North Africa that left me fucking $6 billion. I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, but then it's like there's always gonna be that like one person that was like super legitimate, And that's always in the back of my mind too. I don't know. I like the way you see the world a lot. There's a lot to consider. But yeah, I know that you have to go wrap up soon and go do your own.
Yeah, I do. And you
next
know
show.
what? My phone hit 6%, and my wifey just left, and I'm looking for my stagehand, and I'm thinking, if I don't plug my phone in, I might just drop right dead.
Nah, so
But
I think it's a good time to wrap up. Still, this was a great
yeah,
conversation. I
loved
love.
it, man. Loved it.
I don't know what to expect, but I'm glad we did this conversation. And just to the people in the world out there, I do care about things outside of the world of immediate rap music and hip hop and shits. Like you could be like a person that does a thing, and it'll go down. That's the goal, is bridging gaps beyond like one industry kind of thing. So thank you for helping me be like a case study that we could still have a 3-hour conversation and you're not even a rapper or anything. You just
Nice.
an enthusiast of a thing, and that's really blessed to me. So this was a huge success.
If it's all right, I want to give a couple shout outs before we peace out.
Yeah, of course.
I want to give a huge monster shout out to the Healing House out in Alderville. Big shout out to Dan and Amy Tobin. Big opportunities coming that way. They've really put some investment and some time into me. We're going to do some great things coming up. So check us out at Healing House for sure. Big shout out to Dan and Amy for everything that we're going to push forward and make happen. Big shout out to Elders Greenhouse and Elders Smoke Shack and all my followings out there, guys. Of course, these shows and everything wouldn't be happening without your guys' continued support and help. I love it. And big shout out to my mom. My mom is finally fucking making it home. She's been gone since September. She's going to be home here in a couple of weeks, and I can't wait to see her. She's my biggest supporter. She's been my biggest inspiration to keep going. So just want to give those people a shout out. Thank you so much. And thank you, my man, for having me on. This has been, it's been a very long time since I've had such a lengthy discussion about my life and where it started and how it's ended to where it is today. So it's been a blessing to sit here and go down memory lane with you, my man.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it as well. Like I said, it was just so unexpected, but also super pleasant. A very big emotional roller coaster, and I like your storytelling. But thank y'all for watching, the people who came and went, the people in the future that are peeping this, because it'll be at YouTube and all that, podcast networks, all the shits. I just put it everywhere after the fact. I mean, the one place it won't be, ironically, is Twitch, because after 60 days, it'll be gone. But for all of you watching, thank you in the future. Make sure to follow, subscribe, all that good shit. It's already available on the Facebooks and stuff. We'll have a YouTube video in a week or two. Some clips will come for those that want to peep that and hit up the clips channel and just show, because I know none of y'all in the future might want to go through the whole thing, but we're going to take the highlights and make little videos out of it and shits. But thank y'all for watching again. Subscribe, like, follow, blably bloobly. Special thanks to the patrons, Ismail Gadamsi, Chris Pratt, Jonathan Barnes, DJ Blackhurk, and Linda Williams, Scribble the Dope. They support what we do. If you support what we do, patreon.com/behind that suit. On that note, we're going to start the raid real soon. Thank y'all for watching, yos, and live long and prosper, everyone. Make sure to follow Mr. Trev Elder Jones, the Facebook groups and whatnot. To join the Green Lounge is up in the description of the video. So live long and prosper to real time. Peace.